Standing up and you get a head rush. You know when you've been on the couch for like an hour watching something and you stand up and the whole world just disappears for a second. Like your vision goes dark, your head feels like it's floating somewhere above your body, you grab the wall, and then 5 seconds later you're completely fine like nothing happened. And every time it happens, you stand there for a second. Like, did I just almost die? Or was that nothing? It's nothing. Well, it's not nothing, but it's not what you think. What happened is gravity just pulled a bunch of your blood down into your legs the second you stood up, and your body didn't redistribute it fast enough. Normally, your nervous system catches this instantly, tightens the blood vessels, bumps your heart rate, shoves the blood back up to your brain. Done. But sometimes it's a bit slow on the draw, and the reasons it's slow are almost always the same. You're dehydrated, you haven't eaten enough, your iron is low, or you've just been in the same position for way too long. I feel like 90% of the time, someone tells me they get this constantly, and I ask them how much water they drink, and they go, I don't know, some. And there's your answer. Some is not enough. But if it's happening to you literally every single time you stand up, every day, that's worth getting checked, because chronic low iron or blood pressure issues can be behind it, and those are easy to fix once you actually know. Quick one before I keep going. I put together a cookbook with over 100 recipes. Real food, simple stuff, cheap to make. If you're someone who actually wants to feed your body properly, instead of guessing every time you open the fridge, it's 30% off right now. First link in the description. Go grab it. Eyelid twitch. This one drives people insane. Your eyelid just starts pulsing on its own. This tiny little flicker under the skin, and you can't make it stop. You're sitting there in a meeting or talking to someone, and your eye is just going, and you're convinced everyone can see it, even though they almost certainly can't. It's called myokymia, and it's basically the muscles around your eye having tiny involuntary spasms, because the nerves are overstimulated, and the causes are always the same. Boring list. Too much caffeine. Not enough sleep. Too much screen time. Stress. Your body is essentially tapping you on the shoulder going, hey, maybe chill out a bit. It usually stops on its own within a few minutes, maybe an hour tops. Not a big deal. But if you're someone who gets it constantly and it keeps coming back, magnesium deficiency might be playing a role. And that's worth looking into, because most people don't get enough magnesium anyway. Heartburn. I love that it's called heartburn because it has absolutely nothing to do with your heart, and it confuses people constantly. That burning sensation in your chest that creeps up into your throat, usually after eating, that's stomach acid going where it's not supposed to go. Your stomach is lined with this thick mucus that protects it from its own acid, which is strong enough to dissolve metal, by the way. Your esophagus, the tube above it, has no such protection. So when acid splashes up, it literally burns the tissue, and the valve at the top of your stomach that's supposed to keep everything contained just sometimes doesn't do its job. Eating a huge meal puts pressure on it. Lying down right after eating basically invites the acid to walk right up. Alcohol relaxes it. Coffee relaxes it. Spicy food irritates everything. And being overweight pushes on the stomach from the outside, which forces acid upward. If this is happening to you a couple times a week, you've got actual reflux disease, and ignoring it is a bad idea, because that acid is doing real damage over time. What helps is not eating within 2 to 3 hours of lying down, eating smaller meals, and sleeping with your head slightly elevated. Simple stuff, but it works. Throat lump. You swallow and something feels stuck, like there's a ball sitting in your throat. So you swallow again, still there, you keep swallowing, clearing your throat. Nothing changes because nothing is actually there. That's globus sensation. And honestly, it's one of those things that's way more common than people realize, but nobody talks about because it sounds weird. Most of the time, it's just tension. Your throat muscles are clenching the same way your shoulders do when you're stressed. But because it's your throat, your brain immediately goes, something is wrong, something is stuck. Acid reflux can cause it too. Even tiny amounts of acid reaching the upper throat create irritation that your brain interprets as a lump. And the cruelest part is the more you think about it, the worse it gets. You notice it, you worry, you tense up more, which makes it feel bigger, which makes you worry more. It's a perfect little anxiety loop. And usually the thing that fixes it is literally just knowing what it is. Once you stop being scared of it, the tension drops and it goes away. Funny how that works. Brain freeze. Big sip of a slushie, massive bite of ice cream, and then this stabbing pain in your forehead, like someone just jammed an ice pick between your eyes. Lasts about 30 seconds, vanishes completely, and you go back to your ice cream like an idiot and do it again. The medical name for this is phenopalatin ganglioneuralgia, which is the most aggressive name in all of medicine for something caused by a frozen drink. What happens is the cold hits the roof of your mouth and rapidly cools the blood vessels up there. They constrict, then immediately dilate as your body rushes warm blood in to protect the area. That rapid dilation fires the pain receptors, and the signal gets sent to your forehead through the trigeminal nerve, which is the same nerve involved in headaches and migraines. So your mouth causes it, but your forehead feels it. That's called referred pain. And it's actually a pretty fascinating example of your nervous system being a bit of a drama queen. Press your tongue flat against the roof of your mouth to warm it up. Or just eat slower. But we both know you won't. Chest stab. Okay, this one genuinely scares people. You're sitting there, completely relaxed, doing nothing, and suddenly there's a sharp stabbing pain in your chest, usually on one side, and it gets worse when you try to breathe in, so you freeze and take these tiny little shallow breaths, and your brain goes, this is it, this is how I go. And then 30 seconds later, it's completely gone, like nothing happened. That's precordial catch syndrome. And I promise you, it's harmless. It's thought to be a nerve getting briefly irritated in your chest wall or a tiny cramp in the muscles between your ribs. It's incredibly common, especially in teenagers and young adults, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your heart. The pain is sharp, very specific to one spot, and it resolves on its own. Best thing you can do when it happens is take one slow, deliberate, deep breath, even though every instinct tells you not to, because that often just pops the whole thing away like cracking a knuckle. Gone. But, and I do need to say this, if the pain is dull, spreading, comes with dizziness or difficulty breathing, or sticks around for more than a few minutes, that's a completely different situation, and you should take it seriously. Pins and needles. You sat on your leg weird or fell asleep on your arm, and now it feels like 1,000 tiny needles are attacking you from the inside. That horrible tingling buzzing feeling where you can barely move the limb and it's just screaming at you. That's your nerve waking back up. What happened is you compressed it by sitting or lying on it, it stopped sending proper signals, and your brain was receiving garbled nonsense, so it interpreted it as tingling. Once you shift and the pressure comes off, the nerve starts firing again, but it needs a second to get its act together. And that recalibration period is the pins and needles, totally normal, and it passes in seconds to minutes. But I will say this, if you're getting persistent tingling in your hands or feet without having sat on anything, that's a different conversation. B12 deficiency does it, because B12 is critical for nerve health. High blood sugar over time damages the small nerves in your extremities. Carpal tunnel from repetitive movement compresses the nerve in your wrist. Random pins and needles from a bad sleeping position is your body being dramatic. Chronic unexplained tingling is your body trying to tell you something real. A need to stretch. I feel like nobody ever explains this one, but everyone knows the feeling. Your body just demands a stretch. Like not a casual one, a big full body one where your arms go up and your back arches, and you kind of make a noise. And the relief that passes through you afterwards is almost euphoric. That's called pandiculation, and it's your nervous system doing a full reset on your muscle tension. When you've been in one position too long, your muscles stiffen, the sensory feedback to your brain gets stale, and the whole system needs a refresh. The stretch sends this burst of new information through every connection, reactivates the muscle spindles, pushes fresh blood into the tissue, and basically recalibrates your brain's map of your body. That's why it feels so unbelievably good. It's not just a stretch, it's a system reboot. Every cat and dog on earth does this every single time they stand up. Humans suppress it because we're told to sit still, but that urge is probably the most honest signal your body sends you all day, and you should be listening to it. Sleep jerk. You're right on the edge of falling asleep. Everything is fading, your muscles are relaxing, and then your whole body just jolts like you stepped off a curb that wasn't there. Heart rate spikes, you're suddenly wide awake, and you're lying in bed going, what just happened to me? That's a hypnic jerk, and somewhere between 60 and 70% of people get them. The going theory is that as your muscles relax into sleep, your brain misreads it as you falling, and fires an emergency muscle contraction to catch yourself. A miscommunication between your body going to sleep and your brain not getting the memo. They happen more when you're overtired, stressed, had too much caffeine, or when your sleep schedule is a mess. Harmless every single time, but brutally annoying when it keeps yanking you back awake right as you're finally drifting off. Better sleep habits and less caffeine at night tend to sort it out. Indigestion. That heavy sitting in your stomach sensation after eating. Like the food is just parked there doing nothing, and your body doesn't seem interested in dealing with it. Maybe some bloating, maybe some nausea, just general discomfort in your upper abdomen. And the default assumption is always that you ate something bad, but most of the time, it's not what you ate. Eating too fast is probably the biggest one. When you don't chew properly, your stomach gets these big chunks of food that it has to work way harder to break down, and everything backs up. Eating too much, in one sitting, physically overfills the space. And here's the one nobody talks about. Your stomach acid might actually be too low. Not too high like the antacid commercials want you to believe, but too low. Low acid means food sits there longer than it should, starts fermenting, produces gas and pressure, and that heavy uncomfortable feeling. Way more common than people think, especially past your 30s. What helps is chewing your food properly, which I know sounds insulting, but I'm serious. Not flooding your meals with liquid, which dilutes acid. Eating bitter foods like arugula or a splash of apple cider vinegar before eating to wake the acid up. And managing stress because your nervous system literally shuts digestion down when it thinks you're under threat. You cannot digest food properly in fight or flight, and most people are in fight or flight way more than they realize. Goosebumps, your arms prickle, tiny bumps pop up, and every little hair stands on end. Happens when you're cold, when you're scared, or when a piece of music just hits in that specific way. The bumps are caused by tiny muscles at the base of each hair follicle contracting and pulling the hair upright. In animals with proper fur, this does useful things. Traps air for warmth, makes you look bigger to predators. In humans who are basically bald compared to anything with actual fur, it does absolutely nothing practical. It's just an evolutionary leftover, a relic, your body running old software. But the emotional ones are the interesting part. When music gives you goosebumps, what's happening is the sound triggered a dopamine surge and your autonomic nervous system fired a physical response. And studies have actually shown that people who get goosebumps from music have structurally different brains, stronger connections between the auditory cortex and the emotional processing areas. So if a song gives you chills, your brain is literally wired different from someone who doesn't get them. I think that's kind of beautiful, honestly. Ear ringing. You're lying in bed, everything is silent, and there it is, this high-pitched tone that seems to be coming from inside your skull. Not from the room, not from outside, from you. That's tinnitus, and about 15 to 20% of people have some degree of it. What's happening in most cases is that some of the tiny hair cells in your inner ear, the ones that convert sound waves into electrical signals for your brain, have been damaged. And when those cells are damaged, they either send phantom signals or your brain fills the silence with its own noise because it doesn't know what to do with the gap. The biggest cause by far is noise exposure. Concerts, headphones, too loud, working in loud environments without protection. Age-related hearing loss is another one. Earwax buildup can actually make it louder, which people don't expect, and certain medications like high-dose aspirin can trigger it. For most people, it's only noticeable in very quiet rooms. For some people, it's constant and it can genuinely affect quality of life. There's no cure for the majority of cases, but sound therapy where you mask it with background noise, and cognitive behavioral therapy to change how your brain reacts to it actually help a lot more than people expect. And if earwax is contributing, getting that sorted can make a surprisingly big difference. Alcohol. So let's say you drink. Maybe it's a couple beers on the weekend. Maybe it's a bottle of wine a few nights a week. Maybe it's more than that. And you don't really want to count. Whatever the level, the damage is happening and your body is dealing with it whether you feel it or not. The good news is, your liver is one of the only organs that can regenerate itself. If you give it a break, it will start repairing. Studies show that even heavy drinkers who go completely dry for 30 days see measurable improvements in liver fat, blood pressure, cholesterol, and insulin resistance. But you don't have to quit entirely to start undoing damage. Reducing intake makes a real difference. What actively helps the repair process is eating cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, which support your liver's detox pathways. Getting enough B vitamins, especially B1 thiamine, which alcohol depletes aggressively, supplementing with NAC, which is a precursor to glutathione, your liver's master antioxidant, drinking enough water because alcohol is a brutal diuretic and chronic dehydration compounds. Every other problem, and cutting back on fructose and seed oils, which add extra load to a liver that's already overworked. Coffee has also been shown in multiple studies to protect against alcoholic liver disease, which is kind of ironic, but genuinely useful. And sleep. Alcohol destroys your sleep architecture even if you pass out fast. Prioritizing sleep quality on non-drinking nights gives your brain and body actual recovery time. Junk food. Ultra-processed food does 3 things to your body simultaneously, and all of them are bad. It spikes your blood sugar, causing insulin resistance over time. It drives chronic inflammation through seed oils, artificial additives, and excess omega-6 fatty acids. And it literally changes your brain's dopamine system, making whole foods taste boring and keeping you locked in a cycle of craving the stuff that's damaging you. Undoing this is not as hard as it sounds, but it does take time. The first 2 weeks are the worst because your brain is going through a legitimate withdrawal from the hyperpalatable combinations of sugar, fat, and salt it's been engineered to crave. After that, your taste buds and reward system start recalibrating. Within about 30 days, most people report that whole foods taste significantly better and cravings for processed food drop dramatically. What speeds the repair is eating enough protein, which stabilizes blood sugar and keeps you full. Increasing your fiber intake, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria that got decimated by processed food. Consuming omega-3s, from fatty fish to rebalance the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio that processed food completely destroys, eating fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, and yogurt to rebuild your gut microbiome, and cutting liquid calories, especially soda and fruit juice, which are basically mainlining sugar directly into your liver. The inflammation from a processed diet takes longer to resolve, but consistent whole food eating brings CRP and other inflammatory markers down within a few months. Smoking. Here's the thing most people don't know about quitting smoking. Your body starts repairing itself within hours. 20 minutes after your last cigarette, your heart rate and blood pressure start dropping. 12 hours in, your carbon monoxide levels return to normal. Within 2 to 3 months, your circulation and lung function begin to improve. After 1 year, your risk of heart disease drops to half that of a smoker. And after 10 to 15 years, your lung cancer risk drops to nearly that of someone who never smoked. Your body wants to heal from this. It's been trying the whole time you were smoking it, just couldn't keep up with the damage. What helps the recovery is cardiovascular exercise. Even just walking, which forces your lungs to expand fully and accelerates the clearing of tar and mucus. Vitamin C, which smokers are chronically depleted in, because smoking burns through it. Anti-inflammatory foods, rich in antioxidants, like berries, leafy greens, and green tea, which help mop up the free radical damage. Deep breathing exercises, which retrain your lung capacity and help rebuild elasticity. And NAC, again, which thins mucus in the lungs and supports glutathione production. The cilia in your airways, which are tiny hair-like structures that sweep debris out of your lungs, start regenerating within 1 to 9 months of quitting. You'll actually cough more in the first few months because they're waking back up and doing their job, clearing out years of accumulated garbage. Vaping. People switch to vaping thinking it was safe, and while it's almost certainly less harmful than smoking, it's not harmless. And we're still learning how bad it actually is. The main concerns are nicotine addiction, which is identical to cigarettes, the inhalation of chemicals like propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, which when heated produce formaldehyde and acrolein, both of which irritate and damage lung tissue, and the flavoring chemicals, some of which like diacetyl, have been linked to a condition called popcorn lung. The damage to your lungs from vaping is different from smoking. It tends to be more inflammatory and less about tar deposits. What helps if you've quit or are cutting back is the same lung recovery approach as smoking. Cardiovascular exercise, deep breathing, anti-inflammatory foods, vitamin C and ANAC, for mucus clearance and antioxidant support. Your lungs will start clearing the inflammatory response within weeks of stopping. For the nicotine withdrawal itself, magnesium helps with the anxiety and irritability, L-theanine from green tea promotes calm without sedation, and regular exercise triggers endorphins that partially replace the dopamine hit nicotine was providing. The hardest part is honestly the first 2 weeks. After that, the nicotinic receptors your brain grew to accommodate, the nicotine start pruning back, and the cravings become less physical and more habitual. Sugar. Excess sugar drives insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, fatty liver, weight gain, skin aging, brain fog, and energy crashes. And the tricky part is that most of the sugar people eat is hidden in things they don't even think of as sweet. Bread, condiments, salad dressing, pasta sauce, granola bars, yogurt. It adds up to an average of about 17 teaspoons per day for Americans when the recommended limit is 6 for women and 9 for men. Undoing the damage starts with getting your insulin sensitivity back, which is really the root of most sugar-related problems. Walking after meals is genuinely one of the most powerful tools for this. Even 15 minutes of walking after eating significantly blunts your blood sugar. Increasing your protein and healthy fat intake at meals slows glucose absorption and keeps insulin more stable. Chromium and magnesium both improve insulin sensitivity, and most people are deficient in both. Cinnamon has been shown in several studies to modestly improve fasting blood sugar levels. And for the liver damage from excess fructose, the same supports apply as the alcohol section because fructose and alcohol are metabolized almost identically by the liver. Cruciferous vegetables, NAC, coffee, and reducing overall fructose intake. Your skin will also start recovering. The glycation process, where sugar binds to collagen and makes it stiff and brittle, slows down significantly within a few weeks of cutting intake. Most people notice their skin looks better before they notice anything else. Now listen, this is a good spot to pause because everything I'm talking about here comes back to one thing: what you eat. I put together a cookbook with over 100 recipes designed around real food that actually supports your body instead of working against it. No gimmicks, no restrictions, just meals that feed you properly. It's 30% off right now. First link in the description. If you're trying to undo damage from any of the stuff in this video, this is literally the starting point. Go grab it. Caffeine overconsumption. Caffeine in moderation is fine and probably even beneficial, The problem is, when you're running on 4 or 5 cups a day, or stacking energy drinks and pre-workout, and your nervous system is basically living in fight or flight permanently, too much caffeine chronically elevates cortisol, which drives belly fat storage, disrupts sleep architecture, even if you fall asleep fine, because the half-life is 6 hours, meaning that 3 p.m. coffee is still half active. At 9 p.m., depletes magnesium, which you need for over 300 enzymatic processes in your body, and exhausts your adrenal system over time, leading to that burnt-out, wired but tired feeling. Fixing this doesn't necessarily mean quitting entirely, but it means getting honest about how much you're actually consuming, and tapering down. Drop by about half a cup every few days to avoid the brutal withdrawal headaches. Replace afternoon caffeine with L-theanine or decaf. Supplement magnesium glycinate, which is the best absorbed form to replenish what caffeine has been burning through. Prioritize sleep quality, which is the actual energy source caffeine has been masking. And give your adenosine receptors about 2 to 3 weeks to normalize. After that period, a single coffee in the morning will feel like it actually works again, instead of just bringing you to baseline. Sleep deprivation. Most people are chronically sleep deprived and have been for so long they've forgotten what properly rested actually feels like. They think needing coffee to function and being tired by 2 p.m. and crashing on the couch by 8 p.m. is just adult life. It's not. It's sleep debt, and the damage from chronic poor sleep is extensive. Your brain cleans itself during deep sleep through something called the glymphatic system, which flushes out metabolic waste, including beta amyloid, the protein associated with Alzheimer's. Skip that cleaning cycle repeatedly, and the garbage accumulates. Sleep deprivation also tanks testosterone and growth hormone production, increases insulin resistance, elevates cortisol, weakens immune function, and impairs memory consolidation. Undoing this damage requires actually sleeping, not just lying in bed longer. What helps is fixing your sleep hygiene, which is boring, but it works. Consistent sleep and wake times, even on weekends. No screens for at least 30 minutes before bed, or use blue light blocking glasses. Cool room, around 18 degrees Celsius. Magnesium glycinate before bed. No caffeine after noon. No alcohol within 3 hours of bed because it destroys your REM and deep sleep cycles, even though it feels like it helps you fall asleep. Morning sunlight exposure within 30 minutes of waking, which resets your circadian rhythm. And if you've been running on 5 or 6 hours for years, it can take weeks of consistent good sleep before you start feeling the full benefit. Your brain is clearing a backlog. Let it? Chronic stress. Stress might be the most damaging vice on this entire list because it amplifies every other one. Chronic stress keeps cortisol elevated, which breaks down muscle, stores fat, especially around the midsection, suppresses immune function, impairs digestion, disrupts sleep, and literally shrinks the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory. People under chronic stress are more likely to drink more, eat worse, sleep less, and exercise less, creating a compound effect where everything gets worse simultaneously. And the cruelest part is that stress rewires your brain to become more reactive to stress over time. The amygdala, which processes fear and threat detection, actually grows under chronic stress, while the prefrontal cortex, which handles rational thinking and impulse control, shrinks. You become more reactive and less capable of managing your reactions. Undoing this is not about bubble baths and scented candles. The most effective tools, based on actual neuroscience, are regular exercise, which is the single most powerful cortisol regulator available. Deep breathing, specifically box breathing, which directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system and lowers cortisol within minutes. Cold exposure, like a cold shower at the end of your regular shower, which triggers a norepinephrine spike that actually resets your stress response over time. Adequate sleep, which allows cortisol to follow its natural curve of high in the morning and low at night. And social connection, because isolation is one of the strongest chronic stress amplifiers, and your nervous system literally calms down in the presence of people it trusts. The hippocampus can regrow. The prefrontal cortex can strengthen. Neuroplasticity works in both directions, but it takes consistent daily inputs, not a one-off meditation session. I feel like the overall message here is actually kind of hopeful. Your body doesn't hold grudges. It's not sitting there waiting to punish you for everything you've done to it. It's constantly trying to repair and rebuild and return to balance. Every single vice on this list causes real damage, but every single one also has a path back. And the path is almost always the same boring foundation. Eat real food, move your body, sleep properly, manage stress, give your liver and lungs and brain and gut the raw materials they need, and get out of the way. Your body knows what to do. It's been doing it since before you were born. You just have to stop making its job impossible. You fart a lot. I know this isn't the glamorous start you were hoping for, but hear me out. The average healthy person farts somewhere between 14 and 23 times a day. That's not a problem. That's your gut bacteria doing their job. When you eat fiber, which you should be eating a lot of, the bacteria in your large intestine ferment it and produce gas as a byproduct. That gas has to go somewhere. So if you're someone who's gassing out the room on a regular basis, congratulations, your microbiome is active and your diet probably has a decent amount of fiber in it. The people who should actually be worried are the ones who never fart, because that usually means one of two things. Either you're not eating enough fiber, which means your gut bacteria are basically starving, or your motility is so slow that everything is just sitting there. Neither of those is good. So the next time someone gives you a look, just tell them your gut flora is thriving. They'll either be impressed or they'll leave. Either way, problem solved. You dream vividly. If you're waking up remembering these wild, detailed dreams, like full storylines with characters and plot twists, and things that make absolutely no sense but felt completely real at the time, that's actually a really good sign. It means you're hitting proper REM sleep, which is the stage where your brain does memory consolidation, emotional processing, and a bunch of creative problem solving. People who consistently reach deep REM cycles tend to have better memory, better emotional regulation, and better cognitive function overall. And the flip side is telling too. If you never remember your dreams, or you feel like you just close your eyes and then it's morning, there's a good chance you're not getting enough REM. Alcohol destroys REM sleep even if you feel like you slept fine. So does going to bed too late, irregular sleep schedules, and screen time right before bed. So if your dreams are weird and vivid and occasionally involve your old school teacher chasing you through a supermarket, don't worry about it. Your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Your body gets cold after eating. This one most people never notice, but once I tell you about it, you're going to start feeling it. After you eat a proper meal, especially one with a decent amount of food in it, your hands and feet might get slightly cold. Maybe your nose too. And the reason is actually kind of brilliant. Your body is redirecting blood flow away from your extremities and toward your digestive system, because digestion takes a massive amount of energy. Your stomach and intestines need extra blood to break down and absorb everything, so your body temporarily deprioritizes the parts that don't need it right now. It's called postprandial blood redistribution, and it's a sign that your autonomic nervous system is working properly, and your digestion is being taken seriously by your body. People who are constantly stressed or eating on the go or in fight or flight mode often don't get this response because their body never fully switches into rest and digest mode. So if you get a bit chilly after a big meal, that's your body going, alright, let's focus on this. And that's exactly what you want it to do. Quick one. I put together a cookbook with over 100 recipes, real food, high protein, simple to make. If you actually want to feed your body properly instead of guessing, it's half off right now. First link in the description. Go grab it. Your joints crack a lot. I know people hear their knees pop, or their back crack, or their ankles click when they walk, and they immediately think something is wrong. But in the vast majority of cases, it's completely harmless, and it's actually a sign your joints are mobile and being used. The sound is usually caused by gas bubbles collapsing in the synovial fluid that lubricates your joints. That's it. It's not bone grinding on bone. It's not cartilage breaking down. It's gas, and joints that move regularly and through full ranges of motion are more likely to crack because the fluid is being moved around and the gas has more opportunity to form and collapse. The joints you should actually worry about are the ones that never make any noise because you never move them. A hip that hasn't been through its full range of motion in years, a thoracic spine that's been locked in a desk position for a decade, those are the ones slowly deteriorating. So if you stand up and your whole body sounds like a bowl of cereal, relax. It means you're moving. And moving is the whole point. You sneeze in bright sunlight. You walk outside on a bright day and immediately sneeze. Or someone turns on a harsh light and your nose goes off. About 25% of people have this, and it's called the photic sneeze reflex. And for the longest time, nobody could explain why sunlight would make you sneeze, because those two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. The current theory is that the trigeminal nerve, which runs sensation from your face, and the optic nerve, which handles light signals, run so close together in your brain that a strong light stimulus creates a bit of crosstalk. Your brain gets a surge of light information, and the trigeminal nerve picks up some of that signal and interprets it as an irritation. In your nose, so you sneeze, it's completely genetic, passed down from your parents, and it's actually a sign that your cranial nerves are wired tightly and responding quickly to stimuli. It does absolutely nothing useful, but it's a pretty cool quirk of having a responsive nervous system. You get random muscle twitches, your calf just fires on its own, or your thumb starts twitching, or some random muscle in your back pulses a few times and stops. And you sit there wondering if something is seriously wrong. It's not. Those are called fasciculations, and they happen when individual motor units in your muscles fire spontaneously. And the most common causes are exercise, fatigue, caffeine, and stress. Basically, your nervous system is a bit overstimulated, and some signals are leaking out. It's actually a sign that your neuromuscular system is active and responsive. The motor neurons are recalibrating after being used, and sometimes they twitch during the process. Athletes get these more than sedentary people because their nervous systems are more primed. If you just did a hard leg workout and your quad is twitching later that night, that's your body processing the stimulus. It's not damage, it's adaptation. The only time random twitches are worth investigating is if they're persistent in the same muscle for weeks, accompanied by weakness, or if the muscle is visibly wasting. Outside of that, it's just your nervous system being a nervous system. Your stomach growls loudly, and I don't just mean when you're hungry. Your stomach growls and gurgles between meals, even when you're not particularly starving, and that's actually something you want happening. It's called the migrating motor complex, and it's essentially a cleaning cycle your gut runs every 90 minutes or so when there's no food being digested. Think of it like a self-cleaning oven. These waves of muscular contractions sweep through your stomach and small intestine, pushing out leftover food particles, bacteria, and debris that shouldn't be sitting there. The growling noise is the sound of those contractions moving gas and fluid through an empty system. And here's the thing, this cycle only runs when you're not eating. If you're snacking every hour or constantly grazing throughout the day, your migrating motor complex never gets a chance to activate, which means your gut never gets cleaned, which means bacteria can overgrow in places it shouldn't, which is one of the drivers of SIBO and chronic bloating. So that loud embarrassing growl in a quiet room is actually your digestive system doing maintenance. Let it? You get goosebumps from music. Not everyone gets this. And if you do, your brain is literally structured differently. When a piece of music hits just right and your arms prickle and you get this wave of chills down your body, what's happening is the sound triggered a dopamine surge and your autonomic nervous system responded physically. Studies from USC and Harvard have shown that people who experience this have denser neural connections between their auditory cortex and the regions that process emotion. More fibers, more pathways, more crosstalk between hearing something and feeling something. It's not something you can train. You either have the wiring or you don't, and the people who have it tend to score higher on measures of emotional depth and empathy. So if a song has ever made you feel like you're about to cry, and you don't even know why, that's not you being soft. That's your brain being wired for a richer emotional experience than the person sitting next to you who feels nothing. I think that's actually kind of beautiful. Your mouth waters before you eat. You haven't taken a single bite yet, but your mouth is already going. You can smell the food or even just see it, and saliva starts pooling. And that's not just some random reflex. Your digestive system is already preparing. Saliva contains an enzyme called amylase, which starts breaking down carbohydrates before food even reaches your stomach. Your body heard the dinner bell, and it's already setting the table. A strong salivary response means the communication line between your brain and your gut is firing properly. Your vagus nerve, which connects the two, is sending the signal that food is incoming, and your digestive system is ramping up acid production, enzyme secretion, and motility in advance. That's the cephalic phase of digestion, and when it works well, you digest food more efficiently and absorb more nutrients. People who eat while distracted or stressed or standing up often bypass this phase entirely because their brain never properly registered that a meal was happening. So if your mouth is watering before you eat, your gut-brain axis is doing exactly what it should be doing. You yawn when someone else yawns. You're watching this video and I mentioned yawning and some of you just yawned, or you're about to. And the reason that happens is genuinely fascinating because contagious yawning has almost nothing to do with being tired. It's linked to something called mirror neuron activity, which is the system in your brain that fires both when you do something and when you watch someone else do it. It's the neural basis of empathy. You see someone yawn, your brain mirrors it, and you yawn too. And studies have consistently shown that people who score higher on measures of empathy and emotional intelligence are significantly more likely to catch yawns from other people. The more socially aware you are, the more contagious yawning affects you. And here's the wild part. People with antisocial personality disorders and psychopathic traits almost never catch yawns. Their mirror neuron systems don't fire the same way. So the next time someone catches your yawn and goes, "Oh, sorry," tell them it just means their brain works properly. And the next time someone doesn't catch it, well, maybe keep an eye on them. Sugar. And yes, it's an addiction. People laugh when you say that, but your brain doesn't think it's funny at all. When you eat sugar, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter that fires when you use cocaine or nicotine or win money gambling. And the hit is fast. The second that sweetness touches your tongue, your reward system lights up and says, "Yes, more of that please." Now here's the thing, your brain is smart. If you keep giving it sugar every day, multiple times a day it starts to adapt. The dopamine receptors downregulate, meaning you need more sugar to get the same feeling. Sound familiar? That's tolerance. The same thing that happens with drugs. And when you try to cut sugar out completely, you feel it. Irritability, headaches, fatigue, cravings that feel almost physical. Those are withdrawal symptoms. Studies on rats have shown that when given unlimited access to sugar, they develop binging, tolerance, and withdrawal patterns that are almost indistinguishable from drug addiction. The food industry knows this. That's why sugar is in everything. Bread, pasta sauce, salad dressing, yogurt, things that have no business being sweet. Because sugar makes you come back. It makes you buy more. And your brain, which evolved in an environment where sugar was incredibly rare and usually attached to fruit, has absolutely no defense system for the amount being thrown at it right now. Nicotine. Probably the most addictive substance most people will ever encounter. And the scariest part is how fast it hooks you. Nicotine reaches your brain within 10 seconds of inhalation. 10 seconds. It binds to receptors called nicotinic acetylcholine receptors and triggers the release of dopamine, norepinephrine, and several other neurotransmitters simultaneously. The dopamine gives you the reward feeling, the norepinephrine gives you alertness and focus, and together they create this short-lived but incredibly satisfying sensation of calm concentration. And your brain memorizes it immediately. Within days of regular use, your brain has already started growing extra nicotinic receptors to accommodate the nicotine. Which means when you don't have it, those extra receptors are sitting there empty screaming for activation. That's the craving. That's the agitation and anxiety and inability to focus that smokers feel when they haven't had one in a few hours. And the withdrawal is genuinely rough. Irritability, difficulty concentrating, insomnia, increased appetite, depressed mood. It peaks around 3 days after quitting, and the acute symptoms last about 2 to 4 weeks. But the psychological cravings can persist for months or even years, because every situation you used to smoke in is now wired in your brain as a trigger. Coffee and a cigarette, driving and a cigarette, stress and a cigarette. Your brain paired them together, and unpacking those associations is the hardest part. Gambling. This is where it gets really interesting because there's no substance entering your body at all. No chemical, nothing you inhale or swallow or inject. And yet gambling addiction activates the exact same reward pathways in the brain as cocaine. The key is something called intermittent reinforcement, which is the most powerful reinforcement schedule in all of behavioral psychology. It means you don't win every time, you win unpredictably. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, mostly nothing. And that randomness is what makes it so addictive. Because your brain is constantly chasing the prediction. It's constantly going, maybe this time, maybe this time, maybe this time. And every near miss, every almost win, fires your dopamine system almost as strongly as an actual win. Slot machines are specifically designed around this principle. The sounds, the lights, the spinning, the near misses where 2 cherries line up, and the third just barely stops short. All of it is engineered to keep your brain in a state of anticipation. Over time, problem gamblers develop the same tolerance and withdrawal patterns as substance users. They need bigger bets to feel the rush. They feel restless and irritable when they're not gambling. They lie about it, they chase losses, they sacrifice relationships and savings. Brain imaging studies show that pathological gamblers have reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for impulse control and decision-making. The part of the brain that's supposed to say stop has been effectively silenced. Caffeine. Most people don't think of it as an addiction because it's so normalized. But caffeine is a psychoactive drug, and your brain becomes physically dependent on it faster than you think. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain. Adenosine is the chemical that accumulates throughout the day, making you feel sleepy. When caffeine blocks those receptors, you don't feel the tiredness. But your brain notices that the receptors are being blocked, so it does what it always does. It adapts, it grows more adenosine receptors. Now you need caffeine just to feel normal, because without it, there are more receptors than before, all flooding with adenosine and making you feel even more tired than you would have before you started drinking coffee in the first place. That's dependence. And the withdrawal is real. Headaches, fatigue, brain fog, irritability, difficulty concentrating, even mild depression. It usually kicks in 12 to 24 hours after your last dose and peaks around day 2. Most people never experience it because they never go a full day without caffeine. They just think they're someone who needs coffee to function. You're not. You're someone whose brain has adapted to caffeine and now requires it to reach baseline. Alcohol. This one is tricky because it's everywhere and it's socially mandatory in a lot of cultures. Alcohol affects the brain differently from most other addictive substances because it doesn't just target one system. It enhances the effects of GABA, which is your brain's main inhibitory neurotransmitter, making everything feel calmer and looser. And it suppresses glutamate, which is the main excitatory neurotransmitter, meaning your brain activity slows down across the board. That combination is why alcohol makes you feel relaxed and social, and like nothing really matters that much. And your brain loves that feeling, especially if you're someone who carries a lot of stress or anxiety, because alcohol essentially turns the volume down on everything. The problem is that with regular use, your brain compensates. It reduces its own GABA production and increases glutamate to counterbalance the alcohol. So now when you're sober, you feel more anxious, more on edge, more stressed than you did before you ever started drinking, because your brain has literally rewired itself to function with alcohol in the system. Without it, the brakes are too weak and the accelerator is too strong. That's why people with alcohol dependence feel shaky and anxious when they haven't had a drink. And in severe cases, the withdrawal can cause seizures and a condition called delirium tremens, which can be fatal. Alcohol is one of the only substances where the withdrawal itself can kill you. Now, quick pause, because if any of this is making you rethink some of your habits, which honestly it should, I put together a cookbook with over 100 healthy recipes that are simple, cheap, and made from real ingredients. If you're trying to get your brain and body back on track, the easiest place to start is what you eat. It's 30% off right now, first link in the description. Go grab it. Social media, and I know people roll their eyes when you call this an addiction, but the neuroscience is pretty clear at this point. Social media platforms are designed by teams of engineers and behavioral psychologists to maximize engagement, which is a polite word for making you unable to stop scrolling. The mechanism is almost identical to a slot machine. You scroll. Most posts are mediocre, but every so often something hits. Something funny, or outrageous, or validating. And that unpredictable reward fires dopamine in the exact same intermittent reinforcement pattern that makes gambling addictive. Notifications are the same thing. Every notification is a tiny little hit of maybe someone liked what I said, maybe someone agreed with me, maybe something exciting happened. And your brain starts craving those hits. The average person checks their phone over 100 times a day, and most of those checks are unconscious. You're not deciding to pick up the phone. Your brain is doing it automatically because it's been conditioned to seek the reward. And the effect on brain structure is measurable. Heavy social media users show reduced gray matter in the areas associated with impulse control and emotional regulation, and increased activity in the areas associated with craving. It also fundamentally changes your dopamine baseline. When you're getting micro hits of dopamine hundreds of times a day from scrolling, your brain downregulates its receptors, which means everything else in your life feels less rewarding, conversations feel boring, work feels impossible to focus on, even watching a full movie feels too slow. Your brain has been trained to expect constant stimulation, and anything less than that now registers as boredom. Porn. This is the one nobody wants to talk about, but the research is getting harder to ignore. Pornography activates the same dopamine reward pathways as every other addiction on this list, but it does something unique. It pairs the dopamine hit with sexual arousal, which is one of the strongest natural motivational drives humans have. And because of the internet, there's an essentially infinite supply of novel content. Novelty is the key word, because your brain releases more dopamine for something new than for something familiar. So while a drug user has to increase their dose to chase the high, a porn user just clicks to the next video. New face, new scenario, same dopamine spike. And over time, the same tolerance pattern emerges. What used to be stimulating isn't enough anymore. Users often find themselves escalating to more extreme content, not because they're inherently into it, but because their desensitized brain needs a stronger signal to register a reward. The effects on the brain include measurably reduced gray matter in the reward system, weakened connections between the reward center and the prefrontal cortex, which controls decision-making, and decreased dopamine receptor density. In practical terms, this can show up as difficulty maintaining arousal with a real partner, delayed or inability to achieve climax during actual intercourse, social anxiety, reduced motivation, and brain fog. And because it's so private and accessible and free, most people who develop a problematic relationship with it have no idea it's happening until the effects are already impacting their daily life. Food. And I don't mean all food, I mean the ultra-processed engineered stuff that makes up the majority of what most people eat. Food scientists call it the bliss point, which is the precise combination of sugar, fat, and salt that maximizes pleasure in the brain. And these foods are not designed to nourish you. They're designed to make you eat more of them. When you eat a hyperpalatable food, like chips, or fast food, or packaged snacks, your brain lights up like a fireworks show. Dopamine floods the reward center. But just like with every other addiction, your brain adapts. The receptors downregulate. And now regular food, the stuff without engineered bliss points, tastes boring. An apple doesn't hit the same as a bag of gummy bears, because your dopamine system has been recalibrated by thousands of hyperstimulating meals. This is why people who eat a lot of processed food genuinely find it difficult to enjoy whole foods. It's not a willpower issue. Their reward system has been physically altered, and the withdrawal is real. People who cut out processed food, cold turkey, report headaches, fatigue, irritability, and intense cravings for the first 1 to 2 weeks. Brain imaging shows that obese individuals with high processed food intake have reduced dopamine receptor availability that is remarkably similar to what you see in people addicted to cocaine. The food industry spends billions engineering products that hijack your brain chemistry. And then the diet industry spends billions telling you it's your fault you can't stop eating them. Shopping. This one flies under the radar because buying things is just what people do, right? But compulsive buying disorder affects an estimated 5 to 8% of the population, and it follows the exact same neurological pattern as every other behavioral addiction. The dopamine hit from shopping doesn't actually come from owning the thing. It comes from the anticipation, the browsing, the deciding, the moment of clicking buy now or handing over the card. That's where the rush is, and most compulsive shoppers will tell you that the high evaporates almost immediately after the purchase. Sometimes the item stays in the bag unopened. Sometimes it goes straight into a pile with all the other things bought during previous highs. Online shopping has made this exponentially worse because the friction is almost zero. You can buy something in 3 seconds from your bed at 2 a.m. and it arrives the next day. The cycle is the same as every other addiction on this list. Anticipation, dopamine hit, brief satisfaction, crash, guilt, and then the craving to do it again to escape the guilt. Over time, the purchases need to be bigger or more frequent to achieve the same feeling. And the consequences pile up. Debt, shame, hiding purchases from partners, buying things you cannot afford. Brain scans of compulsive shoppers show the same pattern of heightened reward anticipation and reduced impulse control that you see in gambling and substance addiction. I feel like the thing that connects all of these is something most people never get told. Addiction is not about the substance or the behavior. It's about what's happening in your brain. Every single item on this list operates through the same basic mechanism. Something triggers a dopamine release, your brain likes it, it wants more, it adapts to require more, and now you're stuck in a loop you didn't sign up for. The specifics are different, but the wiring is identical. And the reason that matters is because it means addiction isn't a character flaw. It's a neurological pattern. And understanding that pattern is the first step to actually breaking it. Your brain rewired itself into this. It can rewire itself out. It just takes time and honestly a lot more compassion toward yourself than most people are willing to give. So let's start with extra virgin olive oil. And this is the one where I feel like most people kind of know it's healthy, but they don't really understand just how healthy it actually is. Extra virgin olive oil is made by literally just crushing olives and pressing out the oil. That's it. No chemicals, no heat, no hexane, no bleaching, nothing. You squeeze the olive and oil comes out. And because it hasn't been processed at all, it still has all of its polyphenols, which are these really powerful antioxidants that fight inflammation in your body, protect your heart, and have been linked to lower rates of certain cancers. Like this isn't even controversial. The research on olive oil is genuinely insane. People who consume it regularly just live longer. That's not me being dramatic. There are actual long-term studies on this. But here's the thing. I wouldn't cook with it. I know a lot of people do, and I know there are studies showing it holds up okay under heat because of its oxidative stability. But you're taking this beautiful, unprocessed oil that's full of all these beneficial compounds, and you're heating it up and degrading them. That just doesn't make sense to me. Use it raw. Drizzle it on your salad, on your bread, on your food after it's cooked. That's where you get the most out of it. Now the quality matters a lot. You want extra virgin, cold pressed, and single origin, which means all the olives come from one place. Because a lot of the cheap ones at the store are blended from like 5 different countries, sometimes cut with cheaper oils, and they have barely any polyphenols left. And you absolutely have to get it in a dark glass bottle, not plastic. Because chemicals from the plastic leach into the oil over time, especially under store lights. Dark glass, single origin, extra virgin. If you get the right one, it is genuinely one of the healthiest foods on earth. I feel like that alone should change how you think about olive oil. Now canola oil. And this is where things start to get a little less exciting. Most people think canola is healthy because it's low in saturated fat and has some omega-3s. And on paper, sure, but the way this stuff is made is honestly kind of disturbing when you look into it. Canola comes from rapeseed, and to turn that seed into the clear odorless oil in the bottle, they crush the seeds, then use a chemical solvent called hexane to pull out the remaining oil. Then it goes through degumming, neutralizing, bleaching, and deodorizing. By the time it reaches your kitchen, every single beneficial compound that was originally in that seed is completely gone. And because it's high in polyunsaturated fats which oxidize easily when heated, studies have shown it produces some of the highest levels of harmful polar compounds when you cook with it, even though it has a higher smoke point than olive oil. So the smoke point number is basically meaningless if the oil is falling apart and creating toxic byproducts underneath it. I'm not going to tell you it's poison because that's dramatic, but when olive oil is sitting right there on the same shelf, I just don't see the point. It's worse in every way that matters. Coconut oil. And I know some of you are going to get upset about this one. It's made by pressing the meat of coconuts, and there's a virgin version with minimal processing and a refined version that goes through bleaching and deodorizing. The thing about coconut oil is that it's 82% saturated fat. That's more than butter, which sounds terrible. But the type of saturated fat matters here. Coconut oil is high in lauric acid, which is a medium-chain fatty acid that your body processes differently than the long-chain stuff in red meat. And some studies show it can raise your good cholesterol. But I'm going to be real with you. It also raises the bad kind. So it's not this miracle superfood that every wellness influencer wants you to believe. It's fine for baking or light sautéing in moderation. But making it your main cooking oil would be a mistake in my opinion. The smoke point is around 350 unrefined, 400 refined. It has its place, but that place is not in everything you cook. Vegetable oil is one that kind of bothers me. It's usually a blend of soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil, and sometimes sunflower oil. Same chemical extraction as canola, same heavy refining, same loss of everything good. And soybean oil specifically makes up about 70% of all vegetable oil in America. And it is extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. Now you need some omega-6. That's true. But the ratio matters. You want about 4 to 1 omega-6 to omega-3. The average American is at like 15 or 20 to 1. And that imbalance has been linked to chronic inflammation, heart disease, diabetes, and a bunch of other problems. And vegetable oil is one of the biggest reasons that ratio is so messed up. It's in everything because it's the cheapest option available. Not because anyone was thinking about your health when they put it there. Avocado oil is kind of like olive oil's cooler cousin. It's made by pressing the flesh of avocados, similar process, and the nutritional profile is really similar too. High in monounsaturated fats, good vitamin E content, and when refined, it has the highest smoke point of any common cooking oil, at around 520 degrees. So if you need something for really high heat, like searing a steak or deep frying, avocado oil is probably your best bet. But here's where it gets kind of wild. A study from UC Davis found that 82% of avocado oil on the market is either rancid or mixed with cheaper oils. 82%. So that premium avocado oil in your kitchen right now might literally just be soybean oil with a nice label on it, which is kind of insane when you think about it. So you really need to find a brand that's cold pressed, unrefined, and third-party tested. If you get a legit one, it's a great oil, but the fraud problem is honestly a big no-no for the whole industry. Sunflower oil is interesting because there are actually two completely different types, and almost nobody knows this. Regular sunflower oil is very high in omega-6 and has the same oxidation problems as canola and soybean oil. But high oleic sunflower oil has been bred to be high in monounsaturated fats instead, which makes it way more stable and way healthier. So when you see sunflower oil on an ingredient label, the real question is, which type is it? Because one is actually decent, and the other is honestly not great. And the annoying thing is that most products don't even tell you, so you're just kind of guessing and hoping for the best. Butter and ghee. Not technically oils, but come on, everyone cooks with them. Butter is about 63% saturated fat, and it burns kind of easily because the smoke point is only 300 to 350 degrees. But the flavor is the flavor. Nothing tastes like butter, and nothing ever will. And it does have some good stuff like vitamin A, vitamin K2, and butyrate, which is actually really good for your gut health. Now, ghee is basically butter, but better for cooking. You heat the butter until the milk solids separate, and then you remove them. And because those milk solids are gone, the smoke point jumps to about 485 degrees, and it becomes lactose-free. So if dairy messes with your stomach, ghee is your friend. I actually think ghee is kind of underrated. It deserves more love than it gets. Peanut oil is a solid middle ground. About 46% monounsaturated fat, smoke point around 450 degrees, and it gives food this nice nutty flavor. It's the classic deep frying oil. And there's a reason for that. It holds up reasonably well under heat, and it doesn't transfer flavors between batches, so your fries don't end up tasting like the fish you fried before them. But it still has a decent amount of omega-6, and it's usually refined, so it's not bringing any special health benefits. Fine for occasional use, especially Asian cooking or deep frying, but probably not your everyday oil. And then we have the ones that I would honestly just avoid. Corn oil, cottonseed oil, rice bran oil, and grapeseed oil. All highly processed, all extracted with chemical solvents, all extremely high in omega-6, and none of them bring anything to the table that you can't get from better options. Grapeseed oil in particular really annoys me because it gets marketed as healthy since it comes from grapes and has a high smoke point, but it's about 70% omega-6, which is one of the highest of any oil out there. And studies have shown it produces high levels of harmful compounds when heated, despite that smoke point. So the marketing is honestly just misleading. If you see any of these as a main ingredient in something, just know they were picked because they cost almost nothing, not because someone was was worried about what they would do to your body. And then we have tallow, which is rendered beef fat. And I know that sounds kind of old school, like something your great-grandmother cooked with, but tallow is actually making a huge comeback right now. And for good reason. It's about 50% monounsaturated fat and 45% saturated fat, with very little polyunsaturated fat, which means it's incredibly stable under heat. Like really stable. It barely oxidizes at all compared to seed oils, and it has a smoke point of around 400 degrees, so it works great for frying. McDonald's actually used to fry their fries in beef tallow before they switched to vegetable oil in the 90s, and everyone agrees the fries tasted way better back then. Tallow is also a natural source of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, especially if it comes from grass-fed cows. The only real downside is the flavor. It tastes beefy, which is great for savory cooking, but obviously not ideal if you're baking a cake. If you can find grass-fed tallow, it's honestly a really solid cooking fat that people kind of forgot about for a few decades. Now let me quickly tell you about my cookbook with 102 healthy recipes, which is currently 30% off. If you want to actually start making meals that are good for you with the right oils and fats, just click the first link in the description. Sesame oil comes in two versions, and you need to know the difference. Regular sesame oil has a smoke point around 410 degrees and a pretty neutral flavor, so you can cook with it. Toasted sesame oil has a lower smoke point around 350, but this incredible nutty flavor that you really want to add after cooking, not during. And it actually has some unique antioxidants called sesamin and sesamol that have anti-inflammatory properties, which is pretty cool. But it's still higher in omega-6 than olive oil. So think of it more as a flavor thing you use in smaller amounts, not your main cooking oil. Tap water. So this is what comes out of your faucet, and in most developed countries it's perfectly fine to drink, like genuinely fine. In Australia, most of Europe, Canada, Japan, the treatment standards are strict, and the water gets tested constantly. It goes through filtration, disinfection usually with chlorine or chloramine, and in a lot of places fluoride is added for dental health, which is its own whole debate, but we'll leave that for now. The issue isn't that it's dangerous, it's that quality varies massively depending on where you live. Some cities have old pipes that leach lead or copper into the water. Agricultural areas can get pesticide runoff in the supply, and chlorine, while it keeps things safe from bacteria, doesn't taste amazing, and some people are sensitive to it, but for most people in most places it does the job. It's basically free. If you're worried, a simple carbon filter like a Brita handles the chlorine taste and most common contaminants. Done. Alkaline water. Alright, I'm going to be real with you. This is where the marketing gets aggressive and the science gets extremely thin. So alkaline water has a higher pH than regular water, usually around 8 or 9 compared to normal water's 7. And the claim is that drinking it alkalizes your body and prevents disease, and improves energy and basically makes you immortal. Except your body already regulates its own pH incredibly tightly through your lungs and kidneys. Your blood stays between 7.35 and 7.45 no matter what you drink. If it didn't, you'd die. And the second this stuff hits your stomach, which sits at a pH of about 1.5 to 3, it gets neutralized immediately. There is almost no credible evidence it does anything regular water doesn't do. Some people say it tastes smoother, and sure, maybe, but that's not a health benefit. You're paying 3 to 4 times the price for a pH number your body completely ignores. I feel like this exists because the word alkaline sounds scientific, and people associated acidity with disease, which is a massive oversimplification of how anything in your body actually works. Mineral water comes from an underground source and has to contain a certain amount of naturally occurring minerals like calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate. And the key word is naturally occurring. Nobody added them in a factory. They've been in there from filtering through rock for potentially hundreds of years, and depending on where it's from, the mineral profile is quite different. Some are high in calcium, some magnesium, some sodium, and these minerals are actually bioavailable, meaning your body can use them. There are studies showing people who regularly drink mineral water high in magnesium have measurably better magnesium levels, which matters because most people are deficient. Is it worth the money? If you can afford it and you like the taste, it's honestly one of the better options. Hydrates you and gives you minerals on top, but it's not magic. It's water with some extras. Raw water. This is literally untreated, unfiltered water from a natural source. No chlorine, no filtration, nothing. And there was a whole movement in Silicon Valley a few years back where people were paying like $60 for a jug of this because they believed it had beneficial bacteria and minerals that treatment destroys. And look, I understand the impulse to want water the way humans used to drink it, but humans also used to die of cholera and typhoid from untreated water. That's kind of why modern treatment exists. The beneficial bacteria in there can include E. coli, Giardia, Cryptosporidium, and a bunch of other things that will put you in hospital. I'm gonna be real with you, this is not a health choice. It's a gamble, and the people selling it it are charging you a premium to take it. Sparkling water, just water with carbon dioxide pumped into it. That's it. The bubbles are CO2. And every few years, someone writes a headline saying it's bad for your teeth or bad for your bones. And every few years, it gets debunked. The carbonation makes it very slightly acidic, but nowhere near enough to damage enamel or leach calcium from bones. That's a myth. Plain sparkling with no added flavors or sweeteners or citric acid is basically identical to still water for hydration. Where it gets tricky is the flavored stuff. A lot of flavored sparkling waters sneak in citric acid for taste, and that actually can erode enamel over time if you're sipping it all day long. So plain sparkling, go for it. Flavored? Check the ingredients and don't nurse it for 6 hours. Hey, quick pause because I know we're deep into this. If you're someone who actually cares about what goes into your body, and clearly you do because you're watching a video about water types, I put together a cookbook with over 100 healthy recipes. Simple, cheap, real ingredients, no weird stuff, no complicated techniques, just food that actually feeds you properly. It's 30% off right now, which is the cheapest it's going to get. First link in the description. If you're trying to clean up your diet, this is honestly the easiest place to start. Go grab it. Spring water comes from a natural spring where underground water rises to the surface on its own. In theory, it's been filtered through layers of rock and soil and picks up trace minerals along the way. And in practice, actual spring water is usually pretty solid. The problem is the term spring water on a bottle doesn't always mean what you think. Regulations vary by country, and in some places the bar for calling something spring water is embarrassingly low. Some brands literally source from municipal supplies and run it through one extra filter. So if you're buying it because you picture a pristine mountain stream, maybe check where it actually comes from. That said, legitimate spring water from a known source is good stuff. Clean, some minerals, tastes good. Can't really complain. Distilled water, been boiled into steam and condensed back into liquid, which strips out essentially everything. Minerals, chemicals, bacteria, heavy metals, all gone. It is as pure as water gets, and that's kind of the problem. Because it has zero mineral content, it's slightly more acidic than regular water, and there's research suggesting that drinking only distilled long-term can contribute to mineral deficiencies since you're not getting the trace calcium and magnesium you'd normally pick up from water. It also tastes flat and kind of dead because there's literally nothing in it. Great for irons and car batteries and lab work. As your daily drinking water, probably not ideal. You won't keel over, but if it's your only source and your diet isn't mineral rich, you might run into issues over time. Reverse osmosis water goes through a membrane that filters out almost everything, similar to distilled but uses pressure instead of boiling, removes fluoride, chlorine, heavy metals, bacteria, basically the lot. It's popular as a home system because you get extremely clean water from your own tap. Same concern applies though. It strips the minerals. A lot of people who run RO systems add mineral drops back in, or use a remineralization filter afterwards, which honestly makes it one of the best setups available. Contaminant removal of distilled, plus the minerals added back. Just a bit more effort and upfront cost. But if you want full control over what's in your water, reverse osmosis with remineralization is probably the gold standard for home use. Hydrogen water, regular water with extra hydrogen gas dissolved in it. And it's been marketed as this cutting-edge antioxidant miracle thing. Some small studies have shown potential anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects from molecular hydrogen, which is actually interesting at a research level. But most of those studies used very specific concentrations, delivered in very specific ways, and the hydrogen in those bottles you buy at the store starts escaping the second you crack the lid. By the time you've taken 3 sips, a lot of it is already gone. So you're paying $5 to $8 a bottle for water that might have had some extra hydrogen in it at one point. The science is early and kind of promising, but the products available right now are probably not delivering what they claim. I'd file this under interesting, check back in 10 years. Electrolyte water. Water with added sodium, potassium, magnesium, sometimes a few other things. And this one actually makes sense in the right situation. If you're sweating heavily, working out for more than an hour, or you're sick and dehydrated, the sodium helps your body absorb water more efficiently, which means you rehydrate faster. That's real science and it works. The issue is most people drinking this are just sitting at a desk. For normal daily hydration, regular water is fine. You get electrolytes from food. Unless you're genuinely sweating a lot or dealing with actual dehydration, you don't need to pay extra every day. And a lot of the commercial ones sneak in sugar or artificial sweeteners, which kind of defeats the whole point. I feel like the takeaway here is almost annoyingly simple. For most people, filtered tap water is the move. A basic carbon filter or an RO system with remineralization gives you clean water with minerals for a fraction of the cost of bottled anything. Mineral water is a solid upgrade if you can swing it. Everything else is either situational, overhyped, or genuinely dangerous. Your body needs water. It doesn't care about the branding on the bottle. Just Skin. And yes, it's an organ. It's actually the biggest organ you have. About 2 square meters of living armor wrapped around your entire body. And most people treat it like it's just there for decoration. But it's your first line of defense against literally everything. Bacteria, UV radiation, temperature, physical damage, all of it hits your skin before it touches anything else. It regulates your body temperature through sweat. It makes vitamin D when sunlight touches it. It even has its own immune cells just sitting in there ready to fight stuff off. And what wrecks it is the stuff nobody thinks about. Too much sugar, which breaks down collagen over time, chronic dehydration, cheap seed oil based skincare that messes with the barrier, and obviously too much sun without protection. What actually helps is water, omega-3s, zinc, vitamin C, and honestly just leaving it alone. Half the skin problems people deal with come from putting too much stuff on it, not too little. Kidneys. So you've got 2 of these sitting in your lower back, and they filter about 180 liters of blood every single day, which is insane when you think about it. Their whole job is cleaning your blood, balancing fluids, keeping your blood pressure in check, managing electrolytes, and getting rid of waste through urine. Every time you eat something, drink something, pop a painkiller, your kidneys are the ones dealing with the aftermath, and the thing that destroys them faster than anything is a combo that like half the population does every day. Not drinking enough water and taking too many NSAIDs. Ibuprofen is brutal on your kidneys when you use it regularly. High blood pressure over time is another one. Too much sodium without enough potassium throws the whole system off. And the fix is boring, but it's real. Water. Potassium from bananas and potatoes. And not hammering anti-inflammatories every time you have a headache. Brain. This thing uses about 20% of all the energy your body produces. 20%. And it's only 2% of your body weight. It is the most energy-hungry organ you own. And it controls everything. Movement, memory, emotions, your heartbeat, your breathing, your ability to understand what I'm saying right now. All brain. And it's made up of about 60% fat, which is why dietary fat matters so much for how well it works. The things that wreck it are the things people do every single day without thinking twice. Chronic sleep deprivation literally causes your brain to start eating its own cells. That's not a metaphor. That's what happens. Excess sugar causes inflammation that's now being linked to Alzheimer's. So strongly some researchers are calling it type 3 diabetes. Chronic stress physically shrinks the part responsible for memory. And what helps is the boring stuff nobody wants to hear. Sleep. Omega-3s from fatty fish. Exercise, which increases something called BDNF, which is basically miracle grow for brain cells. And cutting back on ultra-processed food. Heart. About 100,000 beats per day. Roughly 35 million per year. And it has never taken a break. Not once. From the second it started beating in your mother's womb to right now it hasn't stopped. All it does is pump blood, pushes oxygen-rich blood out to your whole body, and pulls the used stuff back to your lungs to get reoxygenated. Simple job, but if it stops for even a few minutes, you're done. And what wrecks it is chronic inflammation from ultra-processed food, trans fats that are still hiding in a lot of packaged stuff despite being banned, too much sodium without enough potassium, and just not moving enough. It's a muscle. If you never make it work, it gets weak. What helps is movement, even just walking, magnesium, which most people are deficient in, potassium, omega-3s, and getting the refined carbs and seed oils under control. Liver. This thing does like 500 different jobs and gets absolutely zero credit for any of them. Filters toxins, produces bile to break down fats, stores vitamins and minerals, regulates blood sugar, makes proteins your blood needs to clot, and metabolizes basically everything you eat, drink, or breathe. It's the reason you can have a drink and not immediately die. But here's what people don't realize. Alcohol is not the only thing that destroys it. Excess fructose, the kind from high fructose corn syrup and fruit juice, gets processed almost identically to alcohol in the liver. That's why non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is exploding in countries where people drink soda every day, but have never touched a beer. Seed oils high in omega-6 also increase liver inflammation over time. What helps is cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Coffee, which has actually been shown to protect against liver disease in multiple studies, and just giving it a break from constantly processing garbage. Stomach. Basically a bag of acid. And I mean that literally. The hydrochloric acid in there has a pH of about 1.5 to 3.5, which is strong enough to dissolve metal. Its job is to break food down into a paste called chyme so your intestines can pull the nutrients out. It also kills most bacteria and pathogens that sneak in with your food. And the reason you don't dissolve from the inside is because the lining produces this thick layer of mucus that protects it from its own acid. Pretty clever. What wrecks it is chronic stress, which thins that mucus layer, overuse of NSAIDs, which does the same thing, too much alcohol, which irritates the lining directly, and eating too fast, which forces it to work work way harder than it needs to. What helps is chewing your food properly, which sounds stupid, but genuinely matters. Fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi, not drowning your meals in liquid, which dilutes the acid, and managing stress. Now quick pause, because if any of this is making you think about how you eat, which it should, I put together a cookbook with over 100 recipes that are simple, cheap, and made from real food. Every recipe is designed around actually feeding your body properly, not just filling your stomach. It's 30% off right now, which is the lowest I've ever run it. First link in the description. Go grab it. Small intestine. This is where the actual magic happens. About 6 meters long, coiled up inside you, and this is where 90% of nutrient absorption takes place. Every vitamin, every mineral, every amino acid, every fatty acid your body uses gets pulled out of your food right here. The inside is covered in these tiny finger-like projections called villi that increase the surface area so much that if you flattened it all out, it would cover a tennis court. And what destroys it is anything that damages those villi. Gluten does it in people with celiac disease. Chronic alcohol erodes the lining. Antibiotics wipe out the bacteria that help it function. And a diet high in processed food and low in fiber basically starves the cells, keeping the whole thing healthy. What helps is soluble fiber, bone broth which has amino acids that repair the gut lining, probiotic foods, and just eating actual food instead of stuff that comes in a wrapper. Lungs. About 11,000 liters of air every single day. That's how much they process. Their entire job is gas exchange. Oxygen comes in, carbon dioxide goes out. Every single cell in your body needs oxygen to make energy, and your lungs are the reason it gets there. And what most people don't know is that lung capacity starts declining after about age 35 if you don't actively maintain it. Smoking is obviously the worst thing you can do, but air pollution, chronic mouth breathing, and never doing any cardio all contribute to them slowly getting weaker over time. What helps is deep breathing exercises, which almost nobody does, cardiovascular exercise that actually forces them to fully expand, anti-inflammatory foods, and spending time in clean air whenever you can. Pancreas sits right behind your stomach, and if this thing stops working properly, your whole life changes overnight. It has two main jobs. First, it makes digestive enzymes that break down carbs, fats, and proteins in your small intestine. Second, and more famously, it produces insulin, which is the hormone that controls your blood sugar. You eat carbs, blood sugar goes up, pancreas pumps out insulin to bring it back down. Do that too aggressively for too many years and your pancreas basically burns out. That's type 2 diabetes. And the scary part is, it's almost entirely preventable. What helps is reducing refined sugar and carbs, eating in a way that doesn't spike your blood sugar every 2 hours, and chromium, which is a trace mineral that improves insulin sensitivity. Most people have never heard of it, but it makes a real difference. Thyroid, tiny butterfly-shaped gland in your neck, and it basically sets the speed of your entire metabolism. It pumps out hormones called T3 and T4 that tell your cells how fast to use energy. Too much and everything speeds up. You lose weight, your heart races, you can't sleep, you feel anxious. Too little and everything grinds to a halt. You gain weight eating almost nothing, you're exhausted, your hair falls out, you're freezing when everyone else is fine. And what messes with it more than anything is iodine deficiency, which is way more common than people think because everyone switched to sea salt and pink salt instead of iodized. Chronic stress, which tanks thyroid output, and selenium deficiency because you need selenium to convert the inactive T4 into the active T3 your cells actually use. 2 Brazil nuts a day. That's all the selenium you need. 2. Spleen. Most people genuinely have no idea what this does. It sits on the left side of your abdomen, and it's basically a blood filter and an immune warehouse. It removes old and damaged red blood cells, recycles the iron from them, and stores white blood cells and platelets that get released when you have an infection or an injury. You can technically survive without one. People who lose theirs after trauma do fine, but you become way more vulnerable to certain infections for the rest of your life. What damages it is mostly diseases like mono, which can cause it to swell and potentially rupture, excess alcohol, and blood disorders. What supports it is a strong immune system in general, adequate iron and B12, and being careful with contact sports when you're sick because a swollen spleen is surprisingly fragile. Gallbladder. Little pouch sitting right under your liver, and its whole job is storing bile and releasing it when you eat fat, so your body can break it down and absorb it. It's one of those organs nobody thinks about until it starts screaming at them with gallstones. And gallstones form when there's too much cholesterol in the bile, or not enough bile salts to keep everything dissolved. Here's the thing though, a diet high in refined carbs and low in healthy fat actually increases your risk because your gallbladder needs to be used regularly. If you go on some super low fat diet, it just sits there not contracting, and that's when sludge builds up. What helps is eating healthy fats consistently so it stays active. Bitter foods like arugula and dandelion greens that stimulate bile flow and staying hydrated. I feel like most people walk around every day completely disconnected from the fact that there's this insanely complex system running inside them nonstop. No breaks, no days off, doing thousands of things every second just to keep you alive. And you don't have to understand every single mechanism, but knowing what these organs actually need from you, that changes how you eat, how you sleep, how you move, how you think about every choice you make. Your body isn't working against you, it's working for you. It just needs you to stop sabotaging it. These calorie swaps are so overpowered that once you start using them, you will wonder how you ever dieted without them. The first swap, and honestly one of the most powerful ones on this entire list. Take your regular pasta or rice and mix in konjac noodles or konjac rice to bulk up the meal for basically 0 extra calories. Regular uncooked pasta has roughly 350 calories per 100 grams, while konjac products are basically 0. Now, I have to warn you, if you eat too much konjac in one sitting, you should make sure that you have a toilet in your near proximity, because these things are basically all fiber, and don't ask me how I found out. So don't go eating the whole package. Start small. Maybe do 70% regular pasta and 30% konjac noodles mixed in. That way the texture blends in with the sauce, and you just doubled the volume of your meal for barely any extra calories. And you can do the exact same thing with konjac rice. But if konjac is not your thing, there is another option that I actually think is even better. Take a zucchini, grate it into spaghetti shapes, and mix it right into your regular pasta. This can easily double the volume of your food, and if you think it's going to taste nasty, don't worry. Once it's mixed in with the sauce, you honestly can't even tell it's there. It just adds bulk, and bulk is everything when you are trying to lose fat without feeling like you are starving. Next one. Swap your regular cereal for crushed rice cakes. Most cereals are an absolute calorie trap. A bowl of granola can easily be 400 plus calories by the time you add milk. But if you take a couple of rice cakes and crush them up into a bowl, you get that same crunch, that same cereal experience for a fraction of the calories. A single rice cake is about 35 calories, so 2 or 3 crushed up gives you a solid bowl for about 70 to 100 calories. Throw some Greek yogurt on that, a few berries, maybe a drizzle of honey, and you have a breakfast that looks and feels like a proper meal, but is barely 250 calories total. Compare that to a regular bowl of cereal with milk, which is easily 400 to 500. That's a massive difference, and you are actually more full from the rice cake version because of the volume and the protein from the yogurt. Now, if you are someone who snacks on chips, this one is going to save your life. Swap any chip for air-popped popcorn. A serving of chips is like a tiny, sad little handful, and it's already 140 to 160 calories. But the same calories worth of air-popped popcorn gives you almost 4 cups. 4 cups versus a handful. And popcorn actually has fiber in it, so it keeps you full for longer too. Just don't drown it in butter, because then you kind of defeat the whole purpose. A little bit of salt and some seasoning, and you have a massive snack for barely any calories. This is one of my go-to swaps when I'm in a deficit and I want to munch on something while watching a movie without destroying my entire calorie budget in 15 minutes. This next one most people don't think about, but it's a cheat code: celery. And I don't mean just eat celery sticks like some sad person on a diet. I mean swap it in wherever you would normally use something crunchy. Instead of crackers with your hummus, use celery. Instead of croutons in your salad, chop up some celery. Instead of chips with your dip, celery sticks. And here's the crazy part. Celery is one of those foods where your body actually uses more energy to chew and digest it than the celery itself contains. A whole stalk has about 6 calories, but your body burns about 8 to 10 just processing it. So you are technically burning calories by eating. Now I'm not saying build your whole diet around celery. That would be miserable. But as a swap for anything crunchy, it's basically free food that adds volume to your meals for 0 calorie cost. Alright, this one is for the bread and tortilla lovers. I know how it is. Giving up bread feels like giving up happiness. But you don't have to give it up. You just have to swap it. There are 0 carb and low carb bread and tortilla options now that are genuinely good. A regular flour tortilla can be 200 to 300 calories, but the 0 carb versions are about 15 to 40 calories. That's insane. And the taste difference is honestly minimal, especially when you load it up with chicken, vegetables, and sauce. You are not going to sit there and think, wow, this tortilla is different. You are going to be focused on what's inside it. Same thing with bread. A regular slice is 80 to 100 calories. The low-calorie options are 35 to 45 per slice. That's half the calories for the same sandwich. It's such an easy swap that there is really no reason not to do it. And while we are on the topic of volume eating, let me give you a few more swaps that most people have no idea about. First one, cauliflower rice. A cup of regular white rice has about 200 calories. A cup of cauliflower rice has about 25. That is not a typo. 25 calories. And if you are thinking that sounds disgusting, just hear me out. The secret is to not microwave it or boil it, because that's how you end up with a soggy mess that tastes like wet cardboard. What you want to do is pan fry it with a little bit of cooking spray, some garlic, salt and pepper, until it gets slightly crispy on the edges. Do it that way and it's actually really good. You can even do half regular rice and half cauliflower rice if you are not ready to go all in. You will barely notice the difference and you just cut the calories of your rice almost in half. I do this all the time with stir fry, and honestly, I prefer the texture now because you get that slight crunch that regular rice just doesn't have. And if you want to take your popcorn game even further, try adding some nutritional yeast on top. I know that sounds like something a hippie would eat, but it tastes kind of like cheese. It's got this savory, almost parmesan-like flavor, and it's only about 20 calories per tablespoon. So you can make yourself a massive cheesy popcorn bowl for under 200 calories that tastes like you are eating something way more indulgent than you actually are. Compare that to a bag of cheese-flavored chips, which would be like 500 calories for half the amount of food. It's not even close. And one more before we move on. If you don't want to spend the money on a Ninja Creami for the ice cream swap I'm going to tell you about later, you can still make a solid low-calorie dessert by just freezing a banana, blending it up, and mixing in some cocoa powder and a scoop of protein. It's not quite as good as the Ninja Creami version, I'm not going to lie to you, but it's still way better than eating a regular bowl of ice cream that has 500 calories in it. And the frozen banana gives it that creamy texture that makes it feel like an actual treat. You can also throw in some frozen berries or peanut butter powder if you want to change it up. The whole thing comes out to about 200 to 250 calories, and it's actually filling because of the fiber from the banana and the protein from the powder. So you have options either way. Now let's talk about ice cream, because this swap is probably the most overpowered one on the entire list. If you have a Ninja Creami, you already know what I'm about to say. You take a protein shake, freeze it overnight, throw it in the Ninja Creami, and it comes out tasting like actual ice cream. I'm not exaggerating, it genuinely tastes like the real thing. And a full pint of this is about 150 to 200 calories, with 30 to 40 grams of protein. Compare that to a pint of regular ice cream, which is easily 800 to 1000 calories. That's a quarter of the calories for the same amount of food, and you are getting a massive hit of protein on top of it. Now, the Ninja Creami is not cheap. That's the one downside. But if you eat ice cream regularly and you are trying to lose weight, this thing will pay for itself in like a month. It's genuinely one of the best investments I've made for my diet. Here is a quick one that applies to literally everything. Anything with sugar, just swap it for the sugar-free version. Sugar-free jelly, sugar-free syrups, sugar-free drinks, sugar-free gum. Just use them in moderation, because some artificial sweeteners can mess with your stomach if you go overboard. But as a tool to kill cravings without adding calories, sugar-free options are an absolute lifesaver. Especially sugar-free jelly. You can make a massive bowl of it for basically 0 calories. Throw in some strawberries and it becomes an actual dessert that tastes great and costs you almost nothing calorie-wise. And speaking of swaps, if you eat fast food regularly, I actually made an entire video covering literally every fast food swap you can make at every major chain. So if that's something you are interested in, I'll leave the link to that video somewhere on the screen right now. Go check it out because there are some insane swaps in there that will save you hundreds of calories per order. And the last one, swap your olive oil bottle for a spray. This is so simple, but so many people don't do it. 1 tablespoon of olive oil is 120 calories. And nobody measures when they pour. You are just glugging it into the pan and you have no idea that you just added 300 calories to your meal before you even started cooking. And you didn't even taste any of those calories. But a quick spray of cooking spray is basically 0. Your food still gets cooked, it still tastes the same, but you just saved yourself 200 to 300 calories per meal. This might genuinely be the single most impactful swap on this entire list, just because of how often you cook with oil without even thinking about it. So there you go. If you start stacking even just 3 or 4 of these swaps together, you can easily save 800 to over 1000 calories in a single day without eating any less food. And that right there is the whole point. It was never about starving yourself. It was about being smarter with what you pick. And once you start doing that, fat loss stops feeling like a punishment and starts feeling like a cheat code. Pick 2 or 3 of these, try them this week, and I promise you will not want to go back. If you want a full nutrition guide that breaks everything down step by step, check out the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. These are all the ingredients that are banned in Europe but are still completely legal in America. And I'm not trying to scare you. I just want you to know what is actually in the food that you are eating every single day. Because some of these ingredients have been linked to cancer, organ damage, and behavioral problems in children. And yet they are still in your cereal, your bread, your drinks, and your meat. So let's go through them. First up, we have artificial food dyes. And these are a big one. So you know those super colorful candies and cereals and drinks that you see everywhere? Things like Skittles, Doritos, Pop-Tarts, Gatorade, Fruit Loops, Lucky Charms. The reason they look so colorful is because they are pumped full of artificial dyes like red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, and blue 1. And in Europe, these dyes either require a warning label that says they may cause hyperactivity in children, or they are straight up banned. But in America, they are in basically everything. And the craziest part is that the FDA last reviewed the safety of yellow 5 in 1969 and red 40 in 1971. That is over 50 years ago. So we are eating these dyes every single day based on safety reviews from a time when people didn't even have the internet and smoking was considered healthy. And there are studies showing that these dyes are linked to behavioral problems and hyperactivity in children, which is why Europe decided to either ban them or at least warn people about them. But in America, no warning, no ban, nothing. You just eat your rainbow cereal and hope for the best. I feel like that alone should make you question a few things. Next up, we have potassium bromate. And you have probably never heard of this one, but there is a very good chance you have eaten it today. Because potassium bromate is used in bread, it's a dough strengthener that makes bread fluffier and more elastic. Sounds harmless, right? Well, it's been linked to cancer, nervous system damage, and kidney damage in studies, which is why it's banned in the EU, the UK, Canada, Brazil, and China. But in America, it's still completely legal and it's in over 200 different bread and baked good products. So that sandwich you had for lunch might have had a cancer-linked chemical in the bread and you wouldn't even know it. That's why potassium bromate is genuinely one of the worst ones on this list. A very similar story applies to our next entry, which is azodicarbonamide. And I know that is a mouthful, but you might actually recognize it by its other name, which is the yoga mat chemical, because azodicarbonamide is a chemical that is used to make yoga mats and shoe soles foamy and soft. And that same exact chemical is also used in American bread, bagels, pizza dough, and pastries as a flour bleaching agent. It's been linked to respiratory issues and asthma. Subway actually used to use it in their bread until people found out and they got rid of it. But plenty of other brands still use it. And in Europe, it has been banned for over a decade. So in America, you are basically eating bread that shares an ingredient with your gym floor mat, which is kind of a fun fact that you probably didn't want to know. Then we have to take a look at BHA and BHT. But before we do that, let me super quickly show you my cookbook with 102 healthy recipes, which is currently 30% off. So if you want to actually start eating food that doesn't share ingredients with yoga mats, you can take a look by clicking the first link in the description. Now, back to BHA and BHT. These are preservatives that are added to food to prevent it from going bad. And you will find them in things like Frosted Flakes, Rice Krispies, Wheat Thins, Honey Bunches of Oats, and a lot of other cereals and snack foods. The interesting thing about BHA is that the US Department of Health and Human Services themselves have stated that BHA is, and I quote, reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. So the US government's own health department is saying this thing might cause cancer, and yet it's still completely legal to put it in your cereal. In Europe, both BHA and BHT are banned because they have been linked to cancer and endocrine disruption. But in America, you just eat your Frosted Flakes and don't ask questions. That's kind of the theme of this entire video if you haven't noticed. Next up is brominated vegetable oil, also known as BVO. And BVO is used in citrus-flavored sodas and sports drinks to help distribute the flavoring evenly. You used to find it in Mountain Dew and a bunch of other drinks. And the reason this one is so concerning is because it contains bromine, which is the same element that is found in flame retardants. And bromine can build up in your body over time and potentially lead to memory loss, skin and nerve problems, and organ damage. It's banned in Europe, Japan. The FDA actually finally moved to ban it in America in 2004, which is great. But the fact that it took them this long, when Europe banned it years ago, kind of tells you everything you need to know about how fast the FDA moves on these things. Our next entry is titanium dioxide. And titanium dioxide is a white powder that is used to make things look whiter and more appealing. You will find it in things like Skittles, Starburst, coffee creamers, frosting, and ranch dressing. The European Food Safety Authority concluded in 2021 that titanium dioxide can no longer be considered safe as a food additive. They found that it is genotoxic, which basically means it can damage your DNA. So Europe banned it in 2022. But in America, it's still completely legal and it's in a lot of the stuff that you probably eat on a regular basis, which is kind of wild when you think about it. An ingredient that Europe says can damage your DNA is still perfectly fine to eat in America. Now let's talk about something a little different, because it's not just about what's in the food, it's also about what's in the animals that the food comes from. In America, cows are given hormones called RBGH and RBST to increase how much milk they produce. And these hormones have been linked to elevated levels of a thing called IGF, one in milk, which has been associated with breast, prostate, and colon cancers. These hormones are banned in the EU, Canada, Australia, and Japan. But in America, unless your milk specifically says RBGH-free or RBST-free on the label, there is a very good chance it has it. So you might want to start reading those milk labels a little more carefully. And a very similar thing applies to the meat, because in America, pigs and cattle are given a drug called ractopamine to promote lean muscle growth. It basically makes the animals grow more meat faster. This drug is banned in over 160 countries, including all of Europe, China, and Russia. But in America, it's still used, so the pork chop on your plate might have been grown with the help of a drug that the majority of the entire world has decided is not safe enough to use. That's definitely something worth thinking about. And now I want to talk about something that ties all of this together. And that is the GRAS loophole. GRAS stands for Generally Recognized as Safe. And it's a system that was created in 1958 that allows food companies to basically self-certify that the ingredients they use are safe, which means that the company selling you the food is the same company that decides whether the ingredients in it are safe for you to eat. And between 1997 and 2012, 0% of food safety decisions were made independently. Every single one was made by the manufacturer. The EU has no equivalent system. In Europe, if you want to put an ingredient in food, it has to be reviewed by an independent authority. In America, you just review it yourself and say, yeah, it's fine. Which is exactly why so many of these ingredients that are banned everywhere else are still legal in America. Because the companies that profit from using them are the same ones deciding whether they are safe. So what is the takeaway from all of this? It's pretty simple actually. You don't have to become some paranoid person who is afraid of every single thing they eat. But you should at least be aware that the food system in America is not as well regulated as most people think. And a lot of the ingredients that are in your everyday foods have been deemed unsafe by the rest of the world. The best thing you can do is just start reading ingredient labels. If you see a list of 30 things you can't pronounce, maybe put it back on the shelf. Try to eat more whole foods when you can. And if you want some help with that, don't forget about the cookbook in the description with 102 healthy recipes. It's still 30% off. And that's all the banned ingredients that I prepared for you today. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time. If you like this video, then go ahead and check out this one too. O positive. O positive is carried by roughly 4 out of every 10 people, making it the most common blood type in the world. And when it comes to diet, the blood type theory links O positive to the earliest hunter-gatherer humans, meaning the recommended foods lean heavily toward animal protein and away from grains and dairy. The preferred meats are beef, lamb, venison, veal, and mutton. For fish, the list includes cod, herring, mackerel, rainbow trout, red snapper, salmon, sardines, sole, swordfish, and halibut. Vegetables should focus on leafy greens and cruciferous options like spinach, kale, broccoli, collard greens, Swiss chard, romaine lettuce, turnips, sweet potatoes, artichokes, and okra. Seaweed and kelp are specifically recommended because their iodine content is thought to support thyroid function, which tends to be sluggish in type O individuals. Fruits include plums, prunes, figs, dark cherries, grapefruit, and most berries. Olive oil and flaxseed oil are the go-to fats. Walnuts and pumpkin seeds are the preferred nuts. On the avoid side, wheat is the primary restriction, because a protein called wheat germ-agglutinin is thought to interfere with type O insulin metabolism and promote fat storage and inflammation. Corn is restricted for similar reasons. Dairy is largely off limits because type O people supposedly don't produce enough lactase to properly break down lactose. Kidney beans, navy beans, and lentils are banned because their lectins are believed to deposit in muscle tissue and impair calorie burning. Potatoes, eggplant, and cabbage are avoided. Pork is discouraged, and coffee is actually restricted because it's thought to raise already elevated adrenaline levels in type O carriers. For exercise, the recommendation is intense physical activity, running, HIIT, swimming, martial arts, and heavyweight training. Because type O people are believed to naturally produce higher levels of adrenaline and noradrenaline and need vigorous movement to metabolize them properly. B negative. B negative is one of the rarest blood types, found in only about 1% of the global population. Its dietary recommendations are identical to B positive in terms of food choices, but its scarcity makes it a particularly interesting case. The diet associates type B with ancient nomadic populations who crossed Central Asia and adapted to diverse climates and food sources. Because of this, type B is considered to have the most flexible digestive system of all the blood types. Meats like lamb, goat, rabbit, and venison are the top choices. Fish includes cod, salmon, halibut, mackerel, sardines, flounder, and grouper. And unlike every other blood type, dairy is actually encouraged. Cow's milk, cottage cheese, goat cheese, mozzarella, yogurt, kefir, ricotta, and farmer's cheese are all recommended. Eggs are fine. For grains, oat flour, oat bran, millet, rice, and spelt bread are considered good. Vegetables include beets, broccoli, carrots, sweet potatoes, peppers, eggplant, Brussels sprouts, and leafy greens. Fruits like cranberries, grapes, plums, pineapple, bananas, and watermelon are on the list. Olive oil and ghee are the preferred fats. Almonds and walnuts are the go-to nuts. But here's where type B gets unusual. Chicken is one of the primary foods to avoid. The claim is that chicken muscle tissue contains a lectin that specifically targets and agglutinates type B blood cells, potentially leading to immune dysfunction. Corn is off limits because its lectin is thought to interfere with type B insulin production and cause weight gain. Wheat and buckwheat are avoided because they supposedly slow metabolism in B types, specifically. Lentils, peanuts, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, and all forms of soy, including tofu, tempeh, and soy milk, are restricted. Tomatoes are also avoided due to their lectin content. For exercise, the recommendation is moderate activity with a mental component. Things like hiking, cycling, tennis, swimming, and moderate resistance training, because type B is thought to need both physical and cognitive stimulation to stay balanced. AB positive. AB positive is the rarest of the major positive blood types, carried by less than 5% of the global population. Because AB is considered a blend of type A and type B, the dietary recommendations pull from both. For meats, lamb, turkey, and rabbit are the preferred options, with red meat being strongly discouraged because AB is thought to have inherited type A's low stomach acid, making it difficult to digest heavy animal protein efficiently. Undigested protein is believed to be stored as fat rather than used for energy. Fish is heavily encouraged, particularly tuna, cod, red snapper, salmon, sardines, mackerel, mahi-mahi, and sturgeon. Dairy is allowed in moderation with an emphasis on fermented products. Yogurt, kefir, goat cheese, mozzarella, ricotta, cottage cheese, sour cream, and farmer's cheese are all considered beneficial. Tofu is highlighted as a primary protein source because of its digestibility. For grains, rice, oats, millet, spelt, rye bread, and Ezekiel bread are recommended. Vegetables include broccoli, beets, celery, garlic, kale, sweet potatoes, cauliflower, parsnips, eggplant, and cucumber. Fruits like cherries, cranberries, grapes, kiwi, figs, grapefruit, pineapple, plums, and watermelon are on the list. Walnuts and peanuts are acceptable nuts. Green tea and red wine are actually considered beneficial for AB types. On the avoid side, chicken is restricted for the same lectin reason as type B. Smoked and cured meats like bacon, ham, and salami are particularly discouraged. Kidney beans, lima beans, corn, buckwheat, and most seeds including sesame and sunflower are avoided. Caffeine is specifically warned against because it's thought to amplify cortisol production in AB types. Oranges, bananas, and mangoes are restricted fruits. The diet also recommends eating smaller, more frequent meals rather than large ones because the low stomach acid supposedly can't handle heavy loads. For exercise, the recommendation is a mix of calming and moderate intensity. Yoga combined with cycling, Tai Chi combined with lightweight training, swimming, hiking, and Pilates. Now, if you want to know where you can find my cookbook with 102 healthy recipes, it's the first link in the description, and it's currently 30% off. Every recipe in there is built around whole foods that work for literally everyone, regardless of blood type. A positive. A positive is the second most common blood type worldwide, found in about 3 out of every 10 people. The dietary theory links type A to the rise of agriculture roughly 10,000 years ago, claiming that these individuals evolved to thrive on plant-based foods rather than animal protein. The recommendation is primarily vegetarian. Soy-based proteins are the foundation, including tofu, tempeh, edamame, and soy milk. Fish is allowed in limited amounts, with the top picks being salmon, sardines, cod, mackerel, red snapper, trout, and monkfish. Small amounts of chicken and turkey are considered neutral but not beneficial. For grains, the options include spelt, sprouted wheat bread, buckwheat, amaranth, oat flour, rice flour, and soba noodles. Vegetables are the centerpiece. Broccoli, carrots, kale, Swiss chard, spinach, collard greens, artichokes, garlic, onions, parsnips, pumpkin, turnips, leeks, okra, dandelion greens, alfalfa sprouts, and romaine lettuce are all highlighted. Fruits include blueberries, cherries, cranberries, figs, grapefruit, lemons, pineapple, plums, and prunes. Olive oil and flaxseed oil are the preferred fats. Walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and peanuts are the go-to nuts and seeds. Green tea, ginger, garlic, and turmeric are specifically encouraged. On the avoid side, Red meat is the number one restriction. Beef, pork, lamb, veal, venison, and duck are all strongly discouraged because type A individuals are thought to produce lower levels of hydrochloric acid and the enzyme intestinal alkaline phosphatase, meaning they simply cannot break down animal protein and saturated fat efficiently. Most dairy is restricted, including cow's milk, butter, ice cream, and hard cheeses, because the lactose and saturated fat are thought to overwhelm the type A digestive system. Kidney beans, lima beans, and garbanzo beans are avoided due to their lectin interactions. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, cabbage, and mushrooms are on the avoid list. Oranges, mangoes, papaya, bananas, and coconut are restricted fruits. Vinegar, pepper, ketchup, mayonnaise, and most condiments are discouraged. For exercise, the recommendation is exclusively low intensity. Yoga, tai chi, walking, gentle swimming, stretching, and meditation. Because type A people are thought to naturally produce elevated cortisol levels, and intense exercise supposedly triggers further stress, rather than relieving it. O negative. O negative is one of the most medically critical blood types, despite being carried by less than 7% of the population. Its dietary recommendations mirror type O positive almost entirely. The emphasis is on high animal protein, with lean meats like beef, lamb, and venison at the center. Cold water fish like cod, herring, mackerel, salmon, sardines, and halibut are strongly encouraged. Leafy greens, broccoli, kale, spinach, kelp, and seaweed remain the foundation of the vegetable recommendations. Plums, prunes, figs, and dark berries are the preferred fruits. Olive oil is the primary fat. The same restrictions apply. Wheat, corn, dairy, kidney beans, navy beans, lentils, potatoes, eggplant, pork, and coffee are all on the avoid list for the same reasons, tied to type O's supposed metabolic and hormonal profile. The one additional consideration for O negative specifically relates to pregnancy. Because of the absence of the RhD factor, O negative mothers carrying Rh positive children face a higher risk of immune complications, and some proponents of the blood type diet suggest that proper nutrition, according to type O guidelines, may support a healthier pregnancy outcome. Though this claim has no scientific backing, exercise recommendations remain the same as O positive. Intense vigorous activity, including running, HIIT, heavy weight training, and martial arts. A negative. A negative is one of the rarer blood types, present in less than 2% of the global population. Its dietary profile follows the same guidelines as a positive, centering on a primarily vegetarian approach. Tofu, tempeh, soy milk, and edamame are the main protein sources. Limited fish like salmon, sardines, and cod is allowed. Vegetables dominate the plate, with broccoli, kale, spinach, Swiss chard, garlic, onions, carrots, and artichokes being the most encouraged options. Blueberries, cherries, cranberries, plums, and figs are the preferred fruits. Olive oil is the primary fat. Green tea, ginger, and turmeric are highlighted for their supposed benefits. Red meat, no dairy, kidney beans, lima beans, potatoes, peppers, and eggplant are all avoided for the same digestive reasons attributed to type A's lower stomach acid and enzyme production. The additional consideration for A negative relates to the absent RhD factor and pregnancy. Like all Rh negative mothers, A negative women carrying Rh positive children must be monitored for potential immune complications where the mother's antibodies can target the baby's red blood cells. Some blood type diet advocates suggest that following the type A dietary guidelines may reduce inflammatory responses during pregnancy, though again this is not supported by clinical evidence. Exercise remains low intensity only. Yoga, tai chi, walking, and meditation. B positive. B positive is carried by about 1 in 10 people, making it less common than O and A types, but still a significant portion of the population. Its dietary recommendations are the same as B negative. The emphasis is on a balanced omnivore approach reflecting the nomadic ancestry that type B is associated with. Lamb, goat, rabbit, and venison are the preferred meats. Cod, salmon, halibut, mackerel, sardines, and flounder are the recommended fish. Dairy is fully encouraged. Cow's milk, cottage cheese, goat cheese, mozzarella, yogurt, kefir, and ricotta. Eggs are fine. Oats, millet, rice, and spelt bread are the go-to grains. Beets, broccoli, carrots, sweet potatoes, peppers, Brussels sprouts, and leafy greens make up the vegetable list. Cranberries, grapes, plums, pineapple, bananas, and watermelon are recommended fruits. Olive oil and ghee are the fats. Almonds and walnuts are the preferred nuts. The same restrictions apply as B negative. Chicken is avoided because of the agglutinating lectin claim. Corn, wheat, buckwheat, lentils, peanuts, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, all soy products, and tomatoes are all on the avoid list. Exercise is moderate with a mental component. Hiking, cycling, tennis, swimming, and moderate weight training. AB negative. AB negative is the rarest of all 8 main blood types, carried by less than 0.5% of the entire global population. Its dietary guidelines follow the same hybrid approach as AB positive, combining elements from both type A and type B recommendations. Lamb, turkey, and rabbit are the preferred meats. Tuna, cod, salmon, sardines, mackerel, red snapper, and mahi-mahi are the recommended fish. Fermented dairy like yogurt, kefir, goat cheese, mozzarella, ricotta, and cottage cheese are allowed. Tofu is a primary protein source. Rice, oats, millet, spelt, rye bread, and Ezekiel bread are the grain options. Broccoli, beets, celery, garlic, kale, sweet potatoes, cauliflower, and cucumber are the main vegetables. Cherries, cranberries, grapes, kiwi, figs, pineapple, and watermelon are recommended fruits. Walnuts and peanuts are acceptable. Green tea is encouraged. The avoid list mirrors AB positive. Red meat, chicken, smoked and cured meats, kidney beans, lima beans, corn, buckwheat, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, caffeine, oranges, bananas, and mangoes are all restricted. The additional note for AB negative relates to its plasma. While the dietary guidelines focus on what goes into the body, AB negative plasma is uniquely valuable because it can be given to patients of any blood type, making AB negative individuals universal plasma donors. This medical significance adds an interesting layer to the rarest blood type in the world. Exercise recommendations match AB positive, a combination of calming and moderate intensity activities like yoga, cycling, Tai Chi, lightweight training, swimming, and Pilates. So you clicked on this video because you want to eat fast food without destroying your body. And honestly, I respect that, because most people either go full monk mode and avoid fast food completely, which never lasts, or they just eat whatever they want and pretend the calories don't count. Both of those are kind of dumb. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to order at every single fast food chain if you're trying to lose weight, what to avoid, and then I'm going to rank every fast food restaurant by how healthy they actually are. So by the end of this, you will never have to guess what to order again. Let's get into it. McDonald's. You walk in. Your friend orders a Big Mac, large fries, large Coke. Classic. That's 1,320 calories. 550 from the Big Mac, 480 from the fries, 290 from the Coke. And by the way, a good chunk of that Big Mac is just the sauce. That sauce alone is like 70 calories of fat sitting on top of your burger, doing absolutely nothing for you. Now, I'm not telling you to sit there and eat a salad while your friend eats a Big Mac. That's miserable. Nobody wants to be that person. Instead, just get 2 regular hamburgers. Each one is 250 calories, 12 grams of protein. That's 2 burgers, 500 calories, 24 grams of protein. You are literally eating more items than your friend, and you're consuming less than half the calories. No weird sauce, no extra bun in the middle, just 2 simple burgers. Get a Diet Coke, skip the fries, or get that little side salad if you want something extra. Done. 535 calories. Your friend is at 1,320. You both ate at McDonald's. You both had burgers. One of you just made a smarter choice. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. Chick-fil-A is where people really fool themselves. Oh, it's chicken. It must be fine. Brother, a deluxe sandwich there is 500 calories with 22 grams of fat. That's not light. But okay, the sandwich itself isn't even the biggest problem. The problem is those little sauce containers. You know the Chick-fil-A sauce? The one you grab like 3 of without even thinking? Each one is 140 calories. Basically all fat. So you just casually grabbed 420 calories of dipping sauce. You didn't even register it as food. Your brain didn't count it, but your body did. So what do? Get the grilled nuggets. 12 count. 200 calories, 38 grams of protein. That's almost 40 grams of protein for 200 calories at a fast food place. That's better than most meals people make at home. Now dip them in buffalo sauce at 10 calories instead of that 140 calorie Chick-fil-A sauce. You save 130 calories per packet, and the buffalo actually has a kick to it. If you want something on the side, chicken noodle soup, 170 calories, 11 grams of protein. Whole meal is 380 calories, 49 grams of protein. You just ate a high-protein meal at Chick-fil-A for less calories than most people's sauce collection. Taco Bell. Listen to me. Taco Bell is actually incredible if you know what to ask for. There's this thing called fresco style. You just say it when you order, and they swap out the cheese and the creamy stuff for pico de gallo. Fresh tomatoes, onions, cilantro. Basically 0 calories. A chicken soft taco fresco style is 150 calories with 11 grams of protein. Get 3. That's 450 calories, 33 grams of protein. You ate 3 tacos. 3. And you're still completely on track. Without fresco style, the cheese and sour cream on each taco add 50 to 70 extra calories. Doesn't sound like much until you multiply it across 3 tacos, and suddenly you added 200 calories from stuff you didn't even taste because it got lost under all the other flavors anyway. The Power Menu Bowl is also solid if you tell them no sour cream, no guac. Those two together are 130 calories that give you 0 protein, just extra fat. Get salsa instead. 15 calories. You will not miss them, I promise you. Subway. Here's where most people think they're being healthy, and they're actually not. Because they build this beautiful looking sandwich and then they hit it with mayo. Just mayo alone adds about 200 calories to a sandwich. 200 from a spread that you can't even really taste once everything else is on there. Switch to mustard. 0 calories. You literally cannot taste the difference once you have all the veggies and the meat on there. I'm serious. Try it once and you'll never go back. Get a 6-inch turkey breast on wheat. Load it up with every vegetable behind the glass. Spinach, tomato, onion, peppers, cucumber, banana peppers, everything. More vegetables means more volume, which means you feel more full. And all those vegetables together add maybe 10 calories. Maybe. The whole sandwich is 280 calories, 18 grams of protein. If turkey isn't enough for you, grilled chicken is 320 calories with 23 grams of protein. And stay away from the oil. People drizzle that oil thinking it's the lighter option compared to mayo. It's not. Oil is pure fat. At least with vinegar alone, you get flavor without the calories. Chipotle. Okay, Chipotle can be amazing, or it can be a complete catastrophe. And it all comes down to like 4 decisions you make in the span of 30 seconds while you're standing in that line. Decision 1. Bowl or burrito. The tortilla on a burrito is 320 calories, just the wrap. Before you put anything in it, you're paying 320 calories for a vehicle to hold your food. Get a bowl. Same food, no tortilla, 320 calories saved. Done. Decision 2. Cheese, sour cream, guac. Cheese is 110. Sour cream is 110. Guac is 230. Together, that's 450 calories of toppings, none of which have meaningful protein. You are spending 450 calories on toppings that don't help you build muscle and honestly don't even fill you up. You could skip all 3 and get the green tomatillo salsa at 15 calories and you would enjoy the bowl just as much. Maybe even more because you can actually taste the chicken now. So, chicken, black beans, fajita veggies, tomato salsa, lettuce. That's around 400 calories with over 40 grams of protein. If you really need cheese, fine, add it. You're at 510. That's still half of what the loaded burrito would have been. You went from 1,400 calories to 510 by making 4 small decisions in 30 seconds. That's how easy this is. Wendy's. Most people order a Baconator. 940 calories, 62 grams of fat. I don't even know what else to say about that. It's like eating 3 meals in one sandwich. And then people put ranch on it. Ranch is another 100 plus calories per packet. At that point, just eat whatever you want, because you clearly don't care. But if you do care, here's what actually works. Junior hamburger, 250 calories, 13 grams of protein. Small chili, 170 calories, 15 grams of protein. Total, 420 calories, 28 grams of protein. You just had a burger and a chili. That's a proper meal. That fills you up. The chili has beans and meat, so you're going to feel full for hours, not 45 minutes like you would after the Baconator, because all that fat and processed carbs just runs through you. If you want chicken instead, grilled chicken wrap, 270 calories, 20 grams of protein. Just don't put ranch on it. I know you want to. Don't. Burger King. Look, I'll be honest, Burger King isn't the greatest for this, but you can still make it work. The Whopper with cheese is 740 calories, 46 grams of fat. A big part of that is the mayo. The mayo adds 80 to 100 calories. Ask for no mayo. The burger tastes exactly the same. The flame-grilled flavor is still there. Everything else is still there. You're just removing 100 calories of a spread that you can barely taste anyway. Better yet, get the Whopper Jr. no mayo. 290 calories. You could get 2 of those for 580 and still be under 1 regular Whopper with cheese. 2 sandwiches for less than 1. That's the move. Panda Express. This one catches people off guard because it looks like real food with vegetables, so it must be healthy, right? The orange chicken has over 19 grams of sugar in the sauce alone. That glaze is basically candy. Pair that with fried rice at 520 calories and you're over 1,000. You will want to take a nap. Instead, grilled teriyaki chicken. 300 calories, 36 grams of protein. Super greens on the side, 90 calories. Total, 390 calories. You cut the meal in half and you tripled the protein. The teriyaki chicken is actually good. You're not eating boiled sadness. You're eating real food that happens to also be a smart choice. Popeyes. This might be the best one on the whole list. They have these blackened chicken tenders, 3 pieces, 170 calories, 26 grams of protein, 2 grams of fat, 2 grams. That's nothing. That's basically air. The regular fried tenders, 445 calories. Same chicken, one is breaded and deep fried, one is seasoned and blackened. Now, do not go and ruin this by dipping them in some creamy sauce because those little sauce cups are 100 to 150 calories each. Hot sauce. Use hot sauce. It goes perfectly with the blackened seasoning and it's basically free. Get green beans on the side at 40 calories instead of fries at 260. Your whole meal is 210 calories with almost 30 grams of protein. 210 calories for a full meal. At Popeyes, Meanwhile, someone else in the same drive-thru just ordered the fried chicken sandwich at over 700 calories. Same restaurant, different outcome entirely. Five Guys. Five Guys might be the worst fast food restaurant on the planet for calories. A regular cheeseburger is around 840 calories. And the fries. The regular fries are 950 calories. Just the fries. That's almost an entire day of food for some people, sitting in a paper cup of potatoes. So here's what you do. Little hamburger, 1 patty instead of 2, around 480 calories, 23 grams of protein. Now load it with every free topping they have. Lettuce, tomatoes, onions, pickles, mushrooms, green peppers, jalapenos. All of those are free. All basically 0 calories. And they add volume, so the burger actually feels big and stuffed. You're not getting some sad little patty on a bun. You're getting a loaded burger. Skip the fries entirely. There is no low-calorie version of Five Guys fries. They don't exist. Even the little fries are still over 500 calories. If you absolutely need them, split a little fries with someone. That's the only compromise I'm willing to give you. But ideally, you walk out at under 500 calories with a loaded burger, and you move on with your day. KFC. Most people go to KFC and order a bucket of original recipe fried chicken. And that's fine if you don't care about your diet. But if you do care, here's what nobody orders. The grilled chicken. KFC has an entire grilled chicken menu, and almost nobody gets it, because fried chicken is what they're famous for. A grilled chicken breast is 210 calories, with 38 grams of protein. Compare that to the original recipe breast at 390 calories, with 39 grams of protein. Almost identical protein, nearly half the calories. The only difference is no breading and no deep fryer oil. Get a grilled breast and a grilled drumstick. That's 290 calories, 49 grams of protein. Add green beans at 25 calories. You're sitting at around 315 calories with almost 50 grams of protein for your entire meal. The guy next to you just ate a 3-piece original recipe meal with mashed potatoes, gravy, and a biscuit, and he's at 1,200 calories. Same restaurant, same chicken, same animal. One of you is losing weight, and the other one is wondering why they're not. Wingstop. Wings are tricky because they're breaded, fried, and smothered in sauce. A 10-piece classic bone-in with garlic parmesan is pushing 900 calories, and people eat this as a casual snack while watching a game. Here's the move. Plain boneless wings. 8 pieces is around 640 calories, 44 grams of protein. Now here's where most people throw those calories away. The sauce. Ask for a dry rub instead of a wet sauce. Lemon pepper dry rub adds maybe 5 calories per wing. The garlic parmesan sauce adds 40 to 50 calories per wing. On 8 wings, that's a 350 calorie difference, just from the sauce. Let me say that again. The actual wings are the same. The only thing that changed is what you put on top of them, and it cost you 350 calories. Get veggie sticks on the side, not fries, and hot sauce for dipping, not ranch. Ranch is 260 calories per cup. Hot sauce is basically free. Those two swaps, dry rub instead of wet sauce and hot sauce instead of ranch, save you over 500 calories compared to what most people order. Domino's. Pizza and dieting. Everyone thinks these two things can't exist in the same sentence. They absolutely can if you're not an idiot about it. A regular hand-tossed pepperoni slice from a medium pizza is about 300 calories. 2 slices and you're at 600. 3 and you're pushing 900. Adds up fast. But Domino's has a thin crust option and nobody uses it. A thin crust pepperoni slice is around 190 calories. That's 110 calories less per slice just from the crust being thinner. Over 3 slices, that's 330 calories saved. 330 just from the crust. Even better, get the thin crust with grilled chicken and veggies instead of pepperoni. Around 150 to 170 calories per slice, with more protein and less fat. 3 slices, under 500 calories total. You just ate 3 full slices of pizza and stayed completely on track. The trick with pizza is always the same. Thin crust, lean protein topping, vegetables. Skip the stuffed crust, skip the cheesy bread, skip the garlic knots, and for the love of everything, skip the lava cake. In-N-Out. If you're on the West Coast, you already love this place. And the good news is, In-N-Out is actually one of the easiest fast food spots to eat smart at. A regular hamburger with onion is 390 calories, 16 grams of protein. Already not bad. But here's the real move. They have a secret menu option called Protein Style. All that means is they wrap your burger in lettuce instead of a bun. A double protein style with mustard and ketchup instead of spread is around 330 calories with 33 grams of protein. Let me just repeat that. Double burger, double cheese, 330 calories, 33 grams of protein. That's insane. The spread is their version of Thousand Island dressing, and it adds about 80 calories of pure fat. Switch it for mustard and ketchup. You save those 80 calories, and honestly, it tastes cleaner because you can actually taste the beef and the cheese without the sauce covering everything up. Fries are 395 for a regular order. If you can skip them, skip them. If you can't, plan for it. But do not get a shake. A chocolate shake there is over 580 calories. That's a whole extra meal hiding inside a cup. KFC might have been a surprise, but Starbucks is going to shock you, because people don't think of Starbucks as fast food, but the amount of hidden calories in their drinks is genuinely unbelievable. A grande caramel frappuccino is 370 calories and 55 grams of sugar. That is more sugar than a can and a half of Coca-Cola, and people drink this every single morning on their way to work and then wonder why the scale won't move. It's because you're drinking 370 calories of sugar milk every morning, that's why. For drinks, just keep it simple. Black coffee is 0 calories. An Americano is 15. A cold brew with a splash of milk is under 35. If you need something sweet, 1 pump of sugar-free vanilla adds 0 calories. That's it. For food, the egg white and roasted red pepper egg bites are 170 calories, 12 grams of protein. That's a legitimate breakfast. Or grab a protein box for around 300 to 400 calories depending on which one. But please stop buying the banana bread as a morning snack. It's 420 calories. That is not a snack. That is dessert. Call it what it is. Dunkin'. Same exact problem as Starbucks, but somehow worse. A medium frozen caramel culotta is over 600 calories. 600. For a drink, you could eat a full meal at most of the restaurants on this list for fewer calories than that one drink. Here's the one thing you need to remember at Dunkin'. Flavor shots, not flavor swirls. Shots are 5 to 10 calories. Swirls are 50 to 70 per pump, and they add multiple pumps by default. That difference alone is 200 calories per drink. If you go to Dunkin' every day, that's 1,400 extra calories per week just from the syrup in your coffee. Over a month, that's almost 2 pounds of fat from coffee syrup alone. Think about that. For food, the egg white veggie wake-up wrap is 190 calories. Get 2. That's 380 calories for 2 wraps. Pair it with a black iced coffee, and you're out the door at under 400 calories with a real breakfast. The person behind you in line just ordered a medium iced caramel latte and a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, and they're at over 900. Both of you think you had a quick coffee and breakfast. One of you had double the calories. Jersey Mike's. This one is underrated, and I think more people need to know about it. Their subs are made fresh with real deli meat, and there's one thing you can ask for that changes everything. Sub in a tub. They take all the fillings and scoop them into a bowl and skip the bread entirely. A regular turkey and provolone sub on white bread is around 580 calories. The sub in a tub version is around 280 to 300. You just cut your meal nearly in half by removing the bread, and the bread wasn't even the reason you went there. Get the turkey, chicken, or roast beef sub in a tub with Mike's Way seasoning, oil and vinegar, and every single vegetable they have. It's a massive protein-packed salad bowl for under 350 calories. If you want carbs, get a mini sub instead of a regular. Half the bread. Still feels like a real sandwich. Still under 400 calories. Arby's. Most people think Arby's is a write-off for dieting. It's not. The classic roast beef sandwich is 360 calories with 23 grams of protein. That's already one of the leanest fast food sandwiches out there. Naturally high protein because roast beef is a lean cut. If you really want to cut it down, ask for no bun. That brings it to around 200 calories of just roast beef. Pair it with a side salad and you're at under 300 for a full meal. If you want the bun, totally fine. 360 is reasonable for any meal. Just stay away from the beef and cheddar at 450 plus, the loaded curly fries at 600 plus, and anything with the word crispy in the name. Crispy at Arby's means deep fried. Deep fried means double the calories. Whataburger. If you live in Texas, you probably eat here once a week. A regular Whataburger is 590 calories, which isn't terrible, but it's not great either. Here's the move. The Whataburger Jr., 310 calories, 14 grams of protein. Same burger, smaller size, less bread. If you're really hungry, get 2 juniors for 620 calories total. That's 2 burgers for roughly the same calories as 1 regular. You feel like you ate more food, even though the calorie count is almost identical. The psychology of eating 2 things instead of 1 actually helps you feel more satisfied. Get the apple slices instead of fries. I know. If that sounds sad to you, it's because you're addicted to fries, and that's part of the problem we're solving here. Shake Shack. People love Shake Shack because it feels more premium than regular fast food. And it is. But premium doesn't mean low calorie. A single Shack burger is around 530 calories. A double is pushing 800. Add the cheese fries and a shake and you're over 2,000 calories in one sitting. But here's the thing. You can get a Shack burger with no Shack sauce. That saves you about 70 calories right there. Better yet, ask for it lettuce wrapped. Same thing as In-N-Out protein style. You drop about 150 calories of bun, and now you're around 370 to 380 calories for a solid single burger with cheese. Pair it with a side of pickles or nothing, and you've had a real burger at Shake Shack for under 400 calories. The shakes are 700 to 800 calories. Don't. Panera Bread. This is the one where people think everything is healthy because the restaurant looks nice and the menu says things like artisan and fresh baked. A full bacon turkey Bravo sandwich is over 700 calories. The bread bowls are pushing 900 to 1000. But Panera has one of the best systems for dieting if you know how to use it. The You Pick 2 menu lets you get a half sandwich and a cup of soup. A half turkey sandwich is around 250 to 280 calories. A cup of chicken noodle soup is about 110 calories. Together, that's under 400 calories, and you're eating a sandwich and soup at Panera. That feels like a real meal. That feels like you went out and had lunch. You didn't deprive yourself of anything. You just picked the right combination. Stay away from the bread bowl. Stay away from the mac and cheese. And whatever you do not get a pastry on the way out. That bear claw is 400 calories. You almost made it. Don't ruin it at the register. Raising Cane's, the simplest menu in fast food. They have chicken fingers, fries, coleslaw, toast, and cane sauce. That's it. One chicken finger is about 130 calories with 13 grams of protein. 3 fingers is 390 calories, 39 grams of protein. That's your base. Now here's where people mess up. The cane sauce. Each sauce container is about 190 calories, almost all fat. 2 containers and you just added 380 calories of sauce to a 390 calorie meal. You literally doubled the meal's calories with dipping sauce. Use hot sauce or ketchup instead. Skip the toast. That's another 150 calories of white bread and butter. And skip the fries or trade them for coleslaw at around 180 calories. 3 fingers with hot sauce and coleslaw. About 570 calories, nearly 40 grams of protein. The standard box combo with sauce, fries, and toast is over 1,200. Same restaurant, same chicken, half the calories. Chili's. People forget Chili's exists for dieting because it's a sit-down restaurant, but loads of people eat there. And most of their menu is a disaster. A full rack of baby back ribs is over 1,200 calories. The crispy chicken crispers are 1,500. But Chili's has something called the Guiltless Grill section, and it's genuinely one of the best kept secrets in chain restaurants. The classic sirloin from the Guiltless Grill menu is 210 calories with about 31 grams of protein. That's a steak. 210 calories. Add steamed broccoli at 40 calories and you're at 250 for steak and a side. You could eat that twice and still be under 500 calories. Nobody knows about this. Everyone orders the loaded burgers and the quesadilla explosions. You're sitting there with a steak and veggies for less calories than their appetizer sampler. Dairy Queen. People go to DQ for blizzards, not for health food. A medium Oreo blizzard is 790 calories. That's not dessert, that's a full meal of ice cream. But DQ has food that actually works. The grilled chicken sandwich is around 370 calories with 30 grams of protein. Side salad instead of fries. And if you want something frozen, the small vanilla cone is 230 calories. That's the move. A small cone instead of a medium blizzard saves you over 500 calories and you still got your ice cream. You still walked out of Dairy Queen with a cone in your hand. You just didn't need 790 calories to do it. So that's 14 chains. Every single one of them has options that let you eat fast food and still lose weight. And the lesson is the same at every restaurant. Watch the sauces. They're almost always the hidden calorie bomb that nobody counts. Watch the drinks. Liquid calories don't fill you up, but they absolutely count. Pick grilled over fried whenever it exists. And stop ordering fries on autopilot. You don't need them. You just think you do because you've always gotten them. This is my fast food health tier list. In this tier list, I want to do something a little different than you might expect, because most tier lists like this just look at the calories and call it a day. But that is only half the story. Because you could eat 500 calories of grilled chicken and vegetables, or you could eat 500 calories of something that has 40 different chemicals in it that you can't even pronounce. Same calories, completely different effect on your body. That is why in this tier list, we are not just ranking based on calories. We are also looking at how processed the food actually is. First up, we have Chipotle. And Chipotle is probably the least processed fast food restaurant that exists. And the reason is the way they do their ingredients. Their steak is literally just meat, chili pepper, and cumin. Their salsa is tomatoes, onions, and salt. If you get a burrito bowl with chicken, brown rice, black beans, fajita vegetables, and salsa, you are actually eating real food. There are no weird preservatives, no artificial additives, no random chemicals that you have never heard of, and that is genuinely rare for a fast food chain. On top of that, you are looking at around 600 to 700 calories with over 45 grams of protein, which is pretty solid. But here is the thing, you can also completely destroy yourself at Chipotle if you are not careful, because once you start adding sour cream cheese, guac chips on the side, a burrito can easily hit 1,000 to 100 to 1,500 calories, which is wild for one meal. And yes, they still cook with sunflower oil and rice bran oil, which are seed oils. So it's not perfect, but compared to basically every other fast food chain on this list, the ingredient quality at Chipotle is on a completely different level. That's why it's going straight into S tier. Next up, we have Burger King. And Burger King is kind of in a tough spot, because first of all, they got rid of their grilled chicken and their salads a while ago, which really didn't help them. A Whopper is around 660 calories, and that's before you add cheese or bacon or any of the extras that everybody adds. But the calorie thing is honestly not even the biggest problem with Burger King. The biggest problem is what is actually in the food, because a Whopper has over 30 ingredients in it, and some of those ingredients are things like silicon dioxide, which is basically an anti-caking agent that they found can mess with your gut lining and your immune cells, and potassium sorbate, which has been linked to allergies and asthma. This is all in one burger, so it's not just high in calories, it's also one of the most processed options out there. That's why Burger King is going into the C tier, which couldn't really be said for the next entry in our tier list, which is Taco Bell. Because most people assume Taco Bell is terrible for you, and when it comes to how processed it is, there is definitely some truth to that. Because their seasoned beef is only 88% actual beef. The other 12% is a mix of things like cellulose, maltodextrin, oats, soy lecithin, and a bunch of other fillers. Which is not the worst thing in the world, but it does kind of make you wonder what you're actually eating. But on the calorie side, Taco Bell is actually not that bad. A regular crunchy taco is only 170 calories. A bean burrito is around 380. And they have this fresco menu where they replace the cheese and sour cream with pico de gallo, and you can genuinely put together a meal for under 500 calories. Plus, they have more vegetarian and high fiber options than most fast food places, which is kind of funny coming from a place called Taco Bell. So it's a weird situation. The calories are reasonable, but the ingredient quality is kind of sketchy. I feel like Taco Bell is going into the B tier, but just barely. Now let's get to Sonic, and I'm going to be honest with you, it is really hard to find anything redeeming about Sonic, because the entire menu is basically deep-fried everything with a milkshake on top. Their medium Oreo Blast alone is over 700 calories. That's not even a meal, that's a drink. And the actual food is not just high in calories, it's also loaded with artificial ingredients and preservatives. There is really no way to eat healthy at Sonic, no matter how hard you try. So the healthiest thing you can do at Sonic is probably just keep driving. I'm sorry, but there is just nothing I can do for you there. That's why Sonic is going straight into the hardly food tier. Chick-fil-A is next, and this one is interesting, because from a calorie and protein perspective, Chick-fil-A is genuinely one of the better options out there. Their grilled chicken sandwich is around 390 calories, with 29 grams of protein, and their grilled nuggets are only 140 calories for an 8 count with 25 grams of protein, which is honestly kind of insane when you think about it. But here is where it gets a little complicated, because Chick-fil-A fries their chicken in peanut oil and their fries in canola oil. And almost all of their sauces are loaded with soybean oil. So the grilled options are genuinely good. But the fried stuff and the sauces bring in a lot of the same processed oil problems that you see everywhere else. So Chick-fil-A is going into the A tier, but mainly for the grilled options. If you are going there and getting the fried sandwich with a bunch of sauce, it's a different story. Alright, let's talk about the pizza chains. So Domino's, Papa John's, Little Caesars, all of them. And the thing with pizza is that it hits you from both sides. The calories add up incredibly fast because nobody eats just 2 slices. Be honest with yourself, you eat 4. And at 4 slices of pepperoni pizza from Domino's, you are already at over 1000 calories, and that's before the garlic bread or the wings or whatever else you ordered on the side. And the sodium is absolutely crazy. 1 slice can have over 600 milligrams. But on top of that, pizza dough at these chains is loaded with additives. Domino's dough alone has things like sodium stearoyl lactylate and calcium sulfate and a bunch of dough conditioners that you would never find in actual homemade pizza dough. So it's high in calories, high in sodium, and highly processed. That's why pizza chains are going into the C tier. Then we have to take a look at Subway. But before we do that, let me super quickly show you my cookbook with 102 healthy recipes, which is currently 30% off. So if you want to actually start cooking real food without overcomplicating things, you can take a look by clicking the first link in the description. Now, back to Subway. Subway has built its entire brand around being the healthy fast food option. And from a calorie perspective, they kind of deserve it. A 6-inch sub on wheat bread with turkey or chicken, loaded with vegetables, is around 300 to 400 calories with solid protein. That's genuinely good. But the ingredient quality is where Subway gets a little shaky, because their bread contains soybean oil and a bunch of dough conditioners and additives. And their processed meats are exactly that, processed. They contain things like sodium nitrite, which is a preservative that has been linked to some not so great stuff when consumed regularly. So I feel like Subway is kind of a B+ situation. The concept is great, but the ingredient quality holds it back from being truly healthy. If you order smart and keep it simple, it's still one of the better options out there though. And then we have Dairy Queen. Most people go to Dairy Queen for the blizzards and the ice cream. And I completely understand that. But if you are going there for actual food, you are in trouble. Because their burgers are nothing special, everything is fried, and the ingredient lists are full of the same processed junk you see at the bottom tier chains. And once you add a blizzard on top of your meal, you are easily at over 1500 calories, which for a lot of people is basically their entire day's worth of food in one sitting. So, Dairy Queen goes into the hardly food tier as well. Our next entry in the tier list is McDonald's. And McDonald's is genuinely interesting, because from a calorie perspective, it's actually not that bad. A regular hamburger is 250 calories. Even a Big Mac is only 590. The portions are very controlled and very standardized. But here is the other side. A McDonald's bun alone can have over 20 ingredients in it. Their fries contain something called dimethyl polysiloxane, which is basically an anti-foaming agent that is also used in silicone products, which is a fun fact that you can use to impress your friends at dinner. And their chicken nuggets have over 30 ingredients in them, so the calories are manageable, but the level of processing is pretty high. That's why McDonald's is going into the B tier. It's not as bad as people think from a calorie standpoint, but the ingredient quality is definitely nothing to brag about. A very similar story applies to our next entry, which is Wendy's. Wendy's actually kept their salads and their grilled chicken when a lot of other chains decided to get rid of theirs. And their grilled chicken sandwich is around 370 calories, with 44 grams of protein, which is a really solid ratio. But even Wendy's has its problems on the processing side. Their Dave's single burger has over 35 ingredients, including calcium peroxide and a bunch of other additives in just the bun alone. So the grilled options are genuinely good and less processed, but the burger side of the menu is just as processed as everywhere else. That's why Wendy's is going into the A tier, but specifically for the grilled options. And now, the best for last. Let's talk about Panera Bread. Now I know Panera is not exactly what people think of when they hear fast food, but it kind of is. And from a health perspective, Panera is actually in a pretty strong position, because they were one of the first chains to get rid of all artificial preservatives, sweeteners, and flavors across their entire menu. They have salads that are actually good, they have soups with reasonable ingredients, they have grain bowls with solid macros, and their ingredient lists are generally much shorter and cleaner than what you see at most other chains. Is Panera perfect? No. Some of their sandwiches and pastries are still loaded with calories and sodium. And they still use some seed oils. But the fact that you can consistently find options that are both reasonable in calories and not packed with 40 different chemicals, that puts it in the S tier for me. So what is the takeaway from all of this? It's pretty simple actually. Calories matter, but they are not the whole picture. Because what is actually in your food matters just as much, if not more. And the reality is that most fast food chains are cooking with questionable oils, using preservatives and additives that you would never put in your food at home, and selling you stuff that barely qualifies as real food. That doesn't mean you can never eat fast food, but it does mean you should at least know what you're putting into your body. Rather than blindly trusting any fast food chain because they market themselves as healthy, just take 2 seconds and look at the actual ingredient list. That will tell you everything you need to know. And that's all the fast food restaurants that I prepared for you today. I hope you found it useful. Please don't forget to check out the cookbook in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. If you liked this video, then go ahead and check out this one too. You're standing in a fast food drive-thru right now, trying to figure out what to order that won't destroy your diet. Or you're sitting at home, planning to eat out later and already feeling guilty about it. Either way, stop. You can eat at literally any fast food restaurant and still lose weight. You just need to know what to order. So let me walk you through every major chain and show you exactly what to get. Five Guys. Let's start with the hard one, because Five Guys might be the worst fast food restaurant on the planet for calories. A regular cheeseburger is around 840 calories. And the fries. The regular fries are 950 calories. Just the fries. That's almost an entire day of food for some people, sitting in a paper cup of potatoes. So here's what you do. Little hamburger, 1 patty instead of 2, around 480 calories, 23 grams of protein. Now load it with every free topping they have. Lettuce, tomatoes, onions, pickles, mushrooms, green peppers, jalapenos. All of those are free. All basically 0 calories. And they add volume, so the burger actually feels big and stuffed. You're not getting some sad little patty on a bun. You're getting a loaded burger. Skip the fries entirely. There is no low-calorie version of Five Guys fries. They don't exist. Even the little fries are still over 500 calories. If you absolutely need them, split a little fries with someone. That's the only compromise I'm willing to give you. But ideally, you walk out at under 500 calories with a loaded burger, and you move on with your day. KFC. Most people go to KFC and order a bucket of original recipe fried chicken. And that's fine if you don't care about your diet. But if you do care, here's what nobody orders. The grilled chicken. KFC has an entire grilled chicken menu, and almost nobody gets it, because fried chicken is what they're famous for. A grilled chicken breast is 210 calories, with 38 grams of protein. Compare that to the original recipe breast at 390 calories, with 39 grams of protein. Almost identical protein, nearly half the calories. The only difference is no breading and no deep fryer oil. Get a grilled breast and a grilled drumstick. That's 290 calories, 49 grams of protein. Add green beans at 25 calories. You're sitting at around 315 calories with almost 50 grams of protein for your entire meal. The guy next to you just ate a 3-piece original recipe meal with mashed potatoes, gravy, and a biscuit, and he's at 1,200 calories. Same restaurant, same chicken, same animal. One of you is losing weight, and the other one is wondering why they're not. Wingstop. Wings are tricky because they're breaded, fried, and smothered in sauce. A 10-piece classic bone-in with garlic parmesan is pushing 900 calories, and people eat this as a casual snack while watching a game. Here's the move. Plain boneless wings. 8 pieces is around 640 calories, 44 grams of protein. Now here's where most people throw those calories away. The sauce. Ask for a dry rub instead of a wet sauce. Lemon pepper dry rub adds maybe 5 calories per wing. The garlic parmesan sauce adds 40 to 50 calories per wing. On 8 wings, that's a 350 calorie difference, just from the sauce. Let me say that again. The actual wings are the same. The only thing that changed is what you put on top of them, and it costs you 350 calories. Get veggie sticks on the side, not fries, and hot sauce for dipping, not ranch. Ranch is 260 calories per cup. Hot sauce is basically free. Those two swaps, dry rub instead of wet sauce and hot sauce instead of ranch, save you over 500 calories compared to what most people order. Domino's. Pizza and dieting. Everyone thinks these two things can't exist in the same sentence. They absolutely can if you're not an idiot about it. A regular hand-tossed pepperoni slice from a medium pizza is about 300 calories. 2 slices and you're at 600. 3 and you're pushing 900. Adds up fast. But Domino's has a thin crust option and nobody uses it. A thin crust pepperoni slice is around 190 calories. That's 110 calories less per slice just from the crust being thinner. Over 3 slices, that's 330 calories saved. 330, just from the crust. Even better, get the thin crust with grilled chicken and veggies instead of pepperoni. Around 150 to 170 calories per slice, with more protein and less fat. 3 slices, under 500 calories total. You just ate 3 full slices of pizza and stayed completely on track. The trick with pizza is always the same. Thin crust, lean protein topping, vegetables. Skip the stuffed crust, skip the cheesy bread, skip the garlic knots, and for the love of everything, skip the lava cake. In-N-Out. If you're on the West Coast, you already love this place. And the good news is, In-N-Out is actually one of the easiest fast food spots to eat smart at. A regular hamburger with onion is 390 calories, 16 grams of protein. Already not bad. But here's the real move. They have a secret menu option called Protein Style. All that means is they wrap your burger in lettuce instead of a bun. A double protein style with mustard and ketchup instead of spread is around 330 calories with 33 grams of protein. Let me just repeat that. Double burger, double cheese, 330 calories, 33 grams of protein. That's insane. The spread is their version of Thousand Island dressing, and it adds about 80 calories of pure fat. Switch it for mustard and ketchup. You save those 80 calories, and honestly, it tastes cleaner because you can actually taste the beef and the cheese without the sauce covering everything up. Fries are 395 for a regular order. If you can skip them, skip them. If you can't, plan for it. But do not get a shake. A chocolate shake there is over 580 calories. That's a whole extra meal hiding inside a cup. KFC might have been a surprise, but Starbucks is going to shock you, because people don't think of Starbucks as fast food, but the amount of hidden calories in their drinks is genuinely unbelievable. A grande caramel frappuccino is 370 calories and 55 grams of sugar. That is more sugar than a can and a half of Coca-Cola, and people drink this every single morning on their way to work and then wonder why the scale won't move. It's because you're drinking 370 calories of sugar milk every morning, that's why. For drinks, just keep it simple. Black coffee is 0 calories, and Americano is 15. A cold brew with a splash of milk is under 35. If you need something sweet, 1 pump of sugar-free vanilla adds 0 calories. That's it. For food, the egg white and roasted red pepper egg bites are 170 calories, 12 grams of protein. That's a legitimate breakfast. Or grab a protein box for around 300 to 400 calories depending on which one. But please stop buying the banana bread as a morning snack. It's 420 calories. That is not a snack. That is dessert. Call it what it is. Dunkin'. Same exact problem as Starbucks, but somehow worse. A medium frozen caramel culotta is over 600 calories. 600. For a drink, you could eat a full meal at most of the restaurants on this list for fewer calories than that one drink. Here's the one thing you need to remember at Dunkin'. Flavor shots, not flavor swirls. Shots are 5 to 10 calories. Swirls are 50 to 70 per pump, and they add multiple pumps by default. That difference alone is 200 calories per drink. If you go to Dunkin' every day, that's 1,400 extra calories per week just from the syrup in your coffee. Over a month, that's almost 2 pounds of fat from coffee syrup alone. Think about that. For food, the egg white veggie wake-up wrap is 190 calories. Get 2. That's 380 calories for 2 wraps. Pair it with a black iced coffee, and you're out the door at under 400 calories with a real breakfast. The person behind you in line just ordered a medium iced caramel latte and a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, and they're at over 900. Both of you think you had a quick coffee and breakfast. One of you had double the calories. Jersey Mike's. This one is underrated, and I think more people need to know about it. Their subs are made fresh with real deli meat, and there's one thing you can ask for that changes everything. Sub in a tub. They take all the fillings and scoop them into a bowl and skip the bread entirely. A regular turkey and provolone sub on white bread is around 580 calories. The sub in a tub version is around 280 to 300. You just cut your meal nearly in half by removing the bread, and the bread wasn't even the reason you went there. Get the turkey, chicken, or roast beef sub in a tub with Mike's Way seasoning, oil and vinegar, and every single vegetable they have. It's a massive protein-packed salad bowl for under 350 calories. If you want carbs, get a mini sub instead of a regular. Half the bread. Still feels like a real sandwich. Still under 400 calories. Arby's. Most people think Arby's is a write-off for dieting. It's not. The classic roast beef sandwich is 360 calories with 23 grams of protein. That's already one of the leanest fast food sandwiches out there. Naturally high protein because roast beef is a lean cut. If you really want to cut it down, ask for no bun. That brings it to around 200 calories of just roast beef. Pair it with a side salad and you're at under 300 for a full meal. If you want the bun, totally fine. 360 is reasonable for any meal. Just stay away from the beef and cheddar at 450 plus, the loaded curly fries at 600 plus, and anything with the word crispy in the name. Crispy at Arby's means deep fried. Deep fried means double the calories. Whataburger. If you live in Texas, you probably eat here once a week. A regular Whataburger is 590 calories, which isn't terrible, but it's not great either. Here's the move. The Whataburger Jr., 310 calories, 14 grams of protein. Same burger, smaller size, less bread. If you're really hungry, get 2 juniors for 620 calories total. That's 2 burgers for roughly the same calories as one regular. You feel like you ate more food, even though the calorie count is almost identical. The psychology of eating 2 things instead of 1 actually helps you feel more satisfied. Get the apple slices instead of fries. I know. If that sounds sad to you, it's because you're addicted to fries, and that's part of the problem we're solving here. Shake Shack. People love Shake Shack because it feels more premium than regular fast food. And it is. But premium doesn't mean low calorie. A single Shack burger is around 530 calories. A double is pushing 800. Add the cheese fries and a shake and you're over 2,000 calories in one sitting. But here's the thing. You can get a Shack burger with no Shack sauce. That saves you about 70 calories right there. Better yet, ask for it lettuce wrapped. Same thing as In-N-Out protein style. You drop about 150 calories of bun, and now you're around 370 to 380 calories for a solid single burger with cheese. Pair it with a side of pickles or nothing, and you've had a real burger at Shake Shack for under 400 calories. The shakes are 700 to 800 calories. Don't. Panera Bread. This is the one where people think everything is healthy because the restaurant looks nice and the menu says things like artisan and fresh baked. A full bacon turkey Bravo sandwich is over 700 calories. The bread bowls are pushing 900 to 1000. But Panera has one of the best systems for dieting if you know how to use it. The You Pick 2 menu lets you get a half sandwich and a cup of soup. A half turkey sandwich is around 250 to 280 calories. A cup of chicken noodle soup is about 110 calories. Together, that's under 400 calories, and you're eating a sandwich and soup at Panera. That feels like a real meal. That feels like you went out and had lunch. You didn't deprive yourself of anything. You just picked the right combination. Stay away from the bread bowl. Stay away from the mac and cheese. And whatever you do not get a pastry on the way out. That bear claw is 400 calories. You almost made it. Don't ruin it at the register. Raising Cane's. The simplest menu in fast food. They have chicken fingers, fries, coleslaw, toast, and cane sauce. That's it. One chicken finger is about 130 calories with 13 grams of protein. 3 fingers is 390 calories, 39 grams of protein. That's your base. Now here's where people mess up. The cane sauce. Each sauce container is about 190 calories, almost all fat. 2 containers and you just added 380 calories of sauce to a 390 calorie meal. You literally doubled the meal's calories with dipping sauce. Use hot sauce or ketchup instead. Skip the toast. That's another 150 calories of white bread and butter. And skip the fries or trade them for coleslaw at around 180 calories. 3 fingers with hot sauce and coleslaw. About 570 calories, nearly 40 grams of protein. The standard box combo with sauce, fries, and toast is over 1,200. Same restaurant, same chicken, half the calories. Chili's. People forget Chili's exists for dieting because it's a sit-down restaurant, but loads of people eat there. And most of their menu is a disaster. A full rack of baby back ribs is over 1,200 calories. The crispy chicken crispers are 1,500. But Chili's has something called the Guiltless Grill section, and it's genuinely one of the best kept secrets in chain restaurants. The classic sirloin from the Guiltless Grill menu is 210 calories with about 31 grams of protein. That's a steak. 210 calories. Add steamed broccoli at 40 calories and you're at 250 for steak and a side. You could eat that twice and still be under 500 calories. Nobody knows about this. Everyone orders the loaded burgers and the quesadilla explosions. You're sitting there with a steak and veggies for less calories than their appetizer sampler. Dairy Queen. People go to DQ for blizzards, not for health food. A medium Oreo blizzard is 790 calories. That's not dessert, that's a full meal of ice cream. But DQ has food that actually works. The grilled chicken sandwich is around 370 calories with 30 grams of protein. Side salad instead of fries. And if you want something frozen, the small vanilla cone is 230 calories. That's the move. A small cone instead of a medium blizzard saves you over 500 calories and you still got your ice cream. You still walked out of Dairy Queen with a cone in your hand. You just didn't need 790 calories to do it. So that's 14 chains. Every single one of them has options that let you eat fast food and still lose weight. And the lesson is the same at every restaurant. Watch the sauces. They're almost always the hidden calorie bomb that nobody counts. Watch the drinks. Liquid calories don't fill you up, but they absolutely count. Pick grilled over fried whenever it exists. And stop ordering fries on autopilot. You don't need them. You just think you do because you've always gotten them. If you want even more chains covered, I did a part 1 of this video where I went through McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, Subway, Chipotle, Wendy's, Burger King, Panda Express, and Popeyes. Between both videos, that's over 20 chains with no excuses left. Share this with someone who needs it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. These are all the different types of milk, ranked by how healthy they actually are. We are looking at the macros, nutrients, and how processed each one is. Because some of these milks have ingredient lists that look more like a science experiment than something you should be drinking. So let's go through them. First up, we have almond milk. And almond milk is one of the most popular milk alternatives out there. But here is the thing that most people don't realize. Almond milk is basically almond-flavored water. A cup of unsweetened almond milk has around 30 to 50 calories and only 1 gram of protein. 1. And it doesn't naturally contain any calcium or vitamin D. All of that has to be added in by the manufacturer. And when you look at the ingredient list, you will see things like gellan gum, sunflower lecithin, locust bean gum, and sometimes carrageenan. So it's not the cleanest thing in the world. But here is what almond milk does have going for it. If you are trying to lose weight, having a milk that is only 30 to 50 calories per cup is actually really useful. Because if you are putting milk in your coffee, your cereal, your smoothies, those calories add up fast. And switching to almond milk can save you a lot of calories throughout the day, without you even noticing. So from a weight loss perspective, almond milk is genuinely a solid option. It's not going to give you much in terms of protein or nutrients, but it will keep your calories low. That's why almond milk is going into the B tier. Not because it's nutritionally impressive, but because it serves a real purpose if you are trying to cut. Next up, we have coconut milk, and I'm talking about the coconut milk beverage in a carton, not the thick canned stuff. A cup has around 50 calories, 5 grams of fat, and 0 grams of protein. 0. So it gives you even less protein than milk. And just like almond milk, the ingredient list is usually full of gums and emulsifiers to give it that creamy texture. Without all those additives, it would basically just be cloudy water. The fat in coconut milk is mostly saturated fat, but it does contain medium-chain triglycerides, which some people say are good for energy. But overall, between the lack of protein and the processed ingredient list, coconut milk is going into the C tier as well. Alright, now let's talk about rice milk. And rice milk is the least likely to cause any kind of allergic reaction, so if you are allergic to dairy, nuts, and soy, it's pretty much your only option. But from a nutritional standpoint, rice milk is kind of a disaster. A cup has around 120 calories, 22 grams of carbohydrates, and less than 1 gram of protein. So it's the highest in carbs and the lowest in protein out of every single milk on this list. And on top of that, the FDA has warned that rice products can contain higher levels of inorganic arsenic, which is why they recommend not relying on rice products, especially for infants and pregnant women. And the ingredient list is usually loaded with added sugars, oils, and thickeners as well. I feel like calling it milk is genuinely misleading. That's why rice milk is going straight into the hardly food tier. Then we have to take a look at oat milk. But before we do that, let me super quickly show you my cookbook with 102 healthy recipes, which is currently 30% off. So if you want to learn how to actually eat well without overcomplicating things, you can take a look by clicking the first link in the description. Now back to oat milk. And oat milk is probably the trendiest milk right now. Every coffee shop uses it. Everyone swears by it. But here is what nobody tells you. A cup of oat milk has around 120 calories, 16 grams of carbohydrates, and only 3 grams of protein. So for a milk that is supposed to be this amazing healthy alternative, those numbers are honestly not great. But the real problem is the ingredient list, because a lot of oat milk brands, including Oatly, which is the most popular one, use rapeseed oil as their second ingredient, which is basically canola oil, a seed oil, in your milk. And then on top of that you have gums, phosphates, and a bunch of other additives. Oat milk does contain beta-glucan, which is a type of fiber that can help lower cholesterol. So it does have that going for it. But between the high carbs, the low protein, the seed oils, and the long ingredient list, I think oat milk is one of the most overrated milks out there. That's why it's going into the B tier. Not terrible, but definitely not what people think it is. Our next entry is soy milk. And soy milk is a tricky one, because from a macros perspective, it looks great on paper. A cup of unsweetened soy milk has around 80 to 100 calories, 7 grams of protein, and 4 grams of fat. That is by far the most protein out of any plant-based milk. And soy is a complete protein source with all 9 essential amino acids. So you would think it should be ranked pretty highly, right? Well, not so fast. Because the reality is that most soy milk you find in the store is heavily processed. A lot of brands are loaded with added sugar. Some of the flavored ones have 10 to 15 grams of added sugar per cup, which at that point you might as well be drinking chocolate milk. And even the ones that aren't sweetened often contain carrageenan, which is a thickener that has been linked to gut inflammation in animal studies. And gums and emulsifiers and all the same processed junk you see in almond milk and oat milk. On top of that, a huge percentage of soy in America is genetically modified. And I know people have different opinions on GMOs, but it's at least worth mentioning. And then there is the whole phytoestrogen thing. The research says normal amounts of soy are fine and won't mess with your hormones. But the fact that the conversation even exists kind of tells you something. I feel like the macros are great on paper, but by the time the factory is done with it, soy milk is way more processed than most people realize. That's why soy milk is going into the C tier. The raw ingredient is solid, but what they do to it in the factory ruins it. Now let's talk about hemp milk. And hemp milk is one that most people have never even tried, but it's actually really solid. A cup has around 60 to 80 calories, 3 to 4 grams of protein, and it contains omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids in a ratio that is actually considered ideal. And hemp seeds are one of the few plant-based foods that contain all essential amino acids, making it a complete protein source. And here is the thing that I really like about hemp milk. Compared to oat milk and soy milk, most hemp milk brands actually have cleaner ingredient lists, less gums, less oils, less random additives. It's kind of the underdog that nobody talks about, but probably should. That's why hemp milk is going into the A tier. And then we have skim milk. Skim milk is just regular cow milk with all the fat removed. A cup has around 80 calories, 8 grams of protein, and 0 grams of fat. And on the processing side, skim milk is pretty clean. The ingredient list is usually just milk, no gums, no oils, no emulsifiers, which already puts it ahead of almost every plant-based milk on this list. The protein is great, and it's a natural source of calcium and vitamin D. But when you remove the fat, you also remove some of the fat-soluble vitamins, like vitamin E and vitamin K. And fat actually helps your body absorb calcium and other nutrients more effectively. So by removing the fat, you are kind of reducing how much nutrition your body can actually get out of it. That's why skim milk is going into the B tier. Still solid, but whole milk is better. A very similar entry is whole milk. And whole milk is your classic regular milk. A cup has around 150 calories, 8 grams of protein, and 8 grams of fat. And it naturally contains calcium, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. The fat helps your body absorb all of those properly. And the ingredient list is just milk. That's it. No gums, no seed oils, no carrageenan, no phosphates, just milk. Which in a world where every alternative milk has a 15 ingredient list, that actually means something. The main concern with whole milk in America is the hormone situation. Unless your milk says RBGH free or RBST free on the label, the cows may have been given growth hormones that are linked to certain cancers. These hormones are banned in Europe, Canada, Australia, and Japan. So if you are going to drink whole milk, spend the extra $1 and get the organic or hormone-free version. That's why whole milk is going into the A tier. And now, the best for last. Let's talk about goat milk. And goat milk is honestly the one that surprised me the most. A cup has around 168 calories, 9 grams of protein, and 10 grams of fat. So it has more protein and more calcium than regular cow milk. Goat milk gives you 33% of your daily calcium compared to cow milk, which gives you 27%. And it has smaller fat globules, which makes it easier to digest. A lot of people who have trouble with regular cow milk find that they can drink goat milk without any problems. And the ingredient list is just goat milk. Nothing else. No processing, no additives, no nonsense. And here is a fun fact. About 65% of the world's population actually drinks goat milk as their primary dairy source. It's really just North America that is obsessed with cow milk. The rest of the world already figured out that goat milk is the better option. That's why goat milk is going into the S tier. So if you want the best milk overall, go with goat milk or whole cow milk. One ingredient, no processing, great macros. If you are plant-based, hemp milk is your cleanest option. And if you're drinking oat milk or almond milk thinking you are being healthy, just know what you are actually getting. And that's all the milks that I prepared for you today. I hope you found it useful. Please don't forget to check out the cookbook in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. If you liked this video, then go ahead and check out this one too. Alright, so I need to talk to you about something that honestly makes me a little crazy every time I walk into a supermarket, and it doesn't matter what country you're in, because they all pull the same trick on you. You know those little symbols on the front of packaged food? In Australia and New Zealand, it's the health star rating. Those little glowing stars from half a star up to 5. In France and most of Europe, it's the Nutri-Score, a big colored letter from a green A down to a red E. In the UK, it's the traffic light system, little red, amber, and green circles for fat, sugar, and salt. In Chile and Mexico, they went the other way and slapped big black stop signs on boxes that say high in sugar or high in calories. And in the US, there's basically nothing on the front at all, just the nutrition facts on the back and 1,000 marketing claims fighting for your attention. Different countries, different logos, same exact problem. Somebody is pretending they already did the thinking for you, and you are supposed to glance at it and feel safe. A for good, E for bad, green for good, red for bad, 5 stars good, half a star bad. Go home, feed the family, sleep well. And I wish it worked like that. I really do. But the more you look at these things, the more you realize they are not protecting you. They are kind of making fun of you. Let me show you what I mean. You're standing in the fridge aisle. In one hand, you've got a tub of margarine. Doesn't matter if it's Nuttelex in Australia, Flora in the UK, Becel in Canada, Country Crock in the States. They're all basically the same thing. Industrial seed oils whipped up with emulsifiers and a bit of yellow coloring so it looks like something your grandma would recognize. In Australia, that tub has 4.5 stars on the lid. In Europe, it's sitting there with a green B on a Nutri-Score scale. In the UK, it's showing green lights across the board. Gorgeous. Then right next to it, butter. Just butter. Cream and salt. One ingredient and a half. And the butter is sitting there with 1.5 stars, or a red E, or an angry red circle next to saturated fat like it just got out of prison. So somebody in a government office somewhere is telling you, with a straight face, that the lab goo is 3 or 4 times healthier than the stuff humans have been eating since we figured out what a cow was. And you are just supposed to nod. I'm gonna be real with you. I cannot nod. I refuse. And here's the part that gets me, because I used to assume this was a mistake. Like, oh, the algorithm is just a bit outdated, they'll fix it. No, it's working exactly how it was designed. All of these systems, the stars, the letters, the traffic lights, they are basically one little math formula. It looks at a few numbers on the back of the pack. Calories, saturated fat, sugar, sodium, and then it hands out bonus points for things like fiber and protein and fruit content. That is it. There is nobody tasting anything, nobody reading the ingredient list, nobody going, hey, should we maybe care that this thing has 29 ingredients and half of them sound like a pool cleaner? The algorithm just counts grams, and food companies, who have entire floors of people in suits figuring this out, learned how to play the grams game years ago. You guys remember Milo, the chocolate drink half the planet grew up on. For the longest time, Milo had 4.5 stars on the tin in Australia. 4.5 on a powder that is basically half sugar. And the sneaky little trick was that Nestle was rating it based on how you are supposed to drink it, which apparently is 3 tiny teaspoons stirred into a big glass of skim milk. So the rating was really the rating of skim milk with a whisper of chocolate dust floating in it. The second you scooped a normal human amount, the whole thing fell apart. People called it out, it turned into a scandal, and Nestle quietly took the stars off the tin. But think about that for a second. A giant company was legally allowed to slap 4.5 stars on a jar of sugar for years. And nobody stopped them. That is not a bug. That is the feature. And it is not just Milo. In Europe, Nutri-Score had the exact same fight. Frosted breakfast cereals were scoring B's and C's because the fiber and the added vitamins were dragging the score up. And meanwhile, olive oil, one of the healthiest foods on the planet, was getting a C because it's pure fat and the formula cannot handle that. Cocoa Pops did something similar. Cereal that turns your milk into chocolate water. 4 stars in Australia for ages. A green Nutri-Score B in parts of Europe at one point. How do you get 4 stars or a green letter on a cereal that is almost a third sugar? Easy. You sprinkle in some fiber. You fortify it with vitamins the factory added on the way out. The algorithm sees the fiber, sees the vitamins, hands out points, and suddenly, the chocolate sugar loops are health food. Meanwhile, a tin of sardines, which is pretty much one of the best things you can put in your body, barely qualifies for a rating at all, because it doesn't fit neatly into the boxes the algorithm knows how to tick. The system literally cannot see how good a sardine is for you. Think about that. Now listen. I need to stop for 1 second, because this is important. If you're watching this and any of this is making you feel a little hopeless, like how am I ever supposed to know what to eat anymore? I actually want you to pause and hear me out, because I put something together specifically for this problem. I wrote a cookbook, over 100 recipes. And I didn't write it to show off or to look fancy. I wrote it because I was sick of watching people try to eat well and getting punished for it. Every recipe in there is made from real food, not low-fat this, not fortified that, not a single ingredient you can't pronounce. Just meals that actually feed you. Breakfasts you can throw together before work. Lunches you can meal prep on a Sunday in about an hour. Dinners that taste like something a human being would actually want to eat, not a sad little plate of boiled chicken and broccoli. There are snacks in there, there are dessert recipes in there, there is stuff for the kids, there is stuff for when friends come over. It's cheap to make, it's simple, and honestly it's the thing I wish somebody had just handed me back when I was trying to figure all of this out on my own. It is 30% off right now, which is the lowest price I'm ever going to run it at. First link in the description, that's it, one click. If you grab it, I promise you the next time you walk into a supermarket, you are going to feel completely different. You'll know what to buy, you'll know what to cook, and you'll stop needing a little colored letter on a box to tell you if it's okay to eat. Go grab it. First link, let's go. Okay, back to it. Because once you see the pattern, it's almost funny. Almonds, just raw almonds, get punished in almost every system. High in calories, high in fat, take the points away. Doesn't matter that it's the good kind of fat, doesn't matter that humans have been eating them for thousands of years. Extra virgin olive oil, which in the Mediterranean is basically a food group on its own, gets a C or a D on Nutri-Score and half a star on the Health Star. Half. Meanwhile, a tub of flavored yogurt with 12 ingredients and 3 different kinds of sugar waltzes in and grabs a green A or 5 stars, because it's got a bit of protein and some added calcium. Diet soft drink, 0 calories. Chemical soup in a can, green traffic lights across the board in the UK, and a B on Nutri-Score for a long time. A can of Diet Coke legally looking healthier than a bag of almonds. It's comedy. If it wasn't so serious, it would be comedy. And the part that really gets me is who these systems were sold to. They weren't sold to people like me who are going to stand in the aisle for 10 minutes reading every label. They were sold to busy parents. Tired people. People who have a kid yelling in the trolley and 3 more things to grab before dinner and no time to memorize which emulsifier is which. Every single government basically said the same thing. Don't worry, we did the homework for you, just look at the symbol. And then they handed the calculator to the same companies who make money off you being confused. It's like letting the casino write the rules of the game and then acting shocked when you keep losing. And for my American friends who are sitting there going, huh? We don't even have this. I hate to tell you, you got it worse. You have no front of pack system at all, which means every box in your supermarket gets to write its own rating. Heart healthy, made with whole grain, smart choice, supports immunity. None of that is regulated in the way you think it is. It's all just marketing. At least the other countries have a fake referee. You guys are playing the game with no referee at all. Only Chile and Mexico actually got it kind of right, and I have to give them credit. They went the other direction. Instead of rewarding food with a friendly little letter, they put a big black stop sign on the front of anything high in sugar, salt, saturated fat or calories. No stars, no colors, no bonus points for fiber. Just, hey, this is bad for you, here's a warning. And you know what happened? Sales of junk food dropped. Companies reformulated. Because it turns out, when you stop letting the food industry brag about their own products, and you just tell the truth on the box, people actually change what they buy. Funny how that works. So what do you actually do? You do the thing you already know how to do. You ignore the symbol. Whichever one your country uses, pretend it's not there. Flip the box over. Read the ingredients. If it reads like a chemistry test, you put it back. If you can recognize the 5 things on the list, it's probably fine. Real food doesn't need a rating, because real food doesn't have a marketing department. A banana doesn't have a label. A piece of salmon doesn't have a label. A block of proper cheese made from milk, salt, and cultures doesn't need 4.5 little glowing stars or a green A to prove it belongs in your body. The whole rating thing was built for the boxes, not for the food. And the boxes were built to sell you something, not to feed you. I feel like this is one of those things where the second you see it, you cannot unsee it. You're going to walk into the shop tomorrow, and every little star, every little letter, every little traffic light is going to look different. You'll see the margarine standing there all proud with its 4.5 stars or its green A, and the butter sulking next to it with its 1.5 stars or its red E, and you are going to laugh, because now you know. And honestly, that's the win. You don't have to burn the whole system down. You just have to stop trusting it. Trust your eyes. Trust the ingredient list. Trust the food that was feeding humans long before a committee in an office building decided to rank it with little cartoon symbols. The Health Star rating, Nutri-Score, traffic lights, all of it. None of it is a health tool. It's a marketing tool with a government stamp on it. and now you're in on it too.
The internet is full of health advice that sounds true, gets repeated by everyone, and is completely wrong. And the worst part is, most of this stuff has been around for so long that people just accept it without ever questioning it. So today, I'm going to go through every major health myth, explain where it actually came from, and show you why it's nonsense. Some of these are going to surprise you. Myth number 1. Eating fat makes you fat. This one came from the low-fat diet craze in the 1980s. The idea was simple. Fat has 9 calories per gram, which is more than double protein and carbs at 4 each. So, if you eat less fat, you'll consume fewer calories and lose weight. Sounds logical. The problem is, the food industry took this and ran with it. They removed fat from everything and replaced it with sugar to keep things tasting good. So now you had fat-free cookies, fat-free yogurt, fat-free everything, all loaded with sugar. And people were eating them thinking they were being healthy. They weren't. They were just eating sugar. The truth is, fat doesn't make you fat. Eating more calories than you burn makes you fat. It doesn't matter if those calories come from fat, carbs, or protein. A surplus is a surplus. Fat is actually incredibly important for your hormones, your brain function, and absorbing certain vitamins. An entire generation grew up thinking a fat-free cookie was healthier than an avocado. That's how deep this myth went. Myth number 2. You need 8 glasses of water a day. This comes from a 1945 recommendation by the US Food and Nutrition Board. They said the average person needs about 2.5 liters of water per day. Sounds like 8 glasses, right? The problem is, everyone ignored the next sentence, which said that most of this water is already contained in the food you eat. Fruits, vegetables, soups, coffee, all of it counts toward your water intake. Your body is not sitting there with a scorecard counting glasses. Hydration needs vary massively based on your body size, how active you are, the climate you live in, and a dozen other factors. The simplest way to know if you're hydrated is to check the color of your pee. If it's pale yellow, you're fine. If it's dark, you need more water. That's it. You don't need to force down 8 glasses if you're not thirsty. Your body has been telling you when it needs water for millions of years. It's called thirst. Trust it. Myth number 3. Cracking your knuckles causes arthritis. This one comes straight from your grandma, and I'm sorry to tell you, but she was wrong. There was actually a doctor named Donald Unger who cracked the knuckles on his left hand every single day for 60 years and never cracked the ones on his right hand. He did this specifically to test this myth. The result? No arthritis in either hand. Zero difference. He even won an Ig Nobel Prize for it. The popping sound you hear when you crack your knuckles is just gas bubbles collapsing in the fluid around your joints. It's not your bones grinding or your cartilage breaking down. It's gas. That's all it is. So crack away if you want to. Your grandma might give you a look, but your joints will be fine. Myth number 4. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You know who invented this? Cereal companies. In the early 1900s, it was a marketing campaign to sell more cereal. That's it. That's the whole origin. And it worked so well that over 100 years later, people still repeat it like it's a medical fact. The truth is, meal timing matters way less than your total daily intake. If you eat 2,000 calories across 2 meals, or 3 meals, or 6 meals, the result on your body is almost identical, as long as the total is the same. If you're not hungry in the morning, don't force yourself to eat. Intermittent fasting has become popular, specifically because a lot of people function better when they skip breakfast and eat their calories later in the day. Your metabolism doesn't shut down because you didn't eat at 7 a.m. That's not how it works. Eat when it makes sense for your life, and stop listening to cereal mascots for nutritional advice. Myth number 5. Eating late at night makes you fat. This one comes from correlation studies, where researchers noticed that people who ate late at night tended to be heavier. But here's what they missed. The people eating at midnight weren't gaining weight because of the time on the clock. They were gaining weight because they were eating extra food on top of what they already ate during the day. And the food people eat at midnight isn't usually grilled chicken and broccoli. It's chips and ice cream and leftover pizza. The time doesn't matter. Your body doesn't have a calorie clock that says anything after 8 p.m. goes straight to fat storage. 500 calories at noon and 500 calories at 10 p.m. are processed by your body in the exact same way. If eating later fits your schedule and you're still hitting your calorie target, you're fine. Stop starving yourself after 7 p.m. for no reason. Myth number 6. You need to detox your body. The juice cleanse and supplement industry is worth billions of dollars. And the entire foundation of it is the idea that your body is full of toxins that need to be flushed out with some special green juice or detox tea. Here's the thing. You already have a detox system. It's called your liver and your kidneys. That's literally what they do. Every second of every day, they are filtering your blood, breaking down waste products, and removing things your body doesn't need. No juice, no tea, no supplement does this better than the organs you were born with. Those 3-day juice cleanses people do? All you're doing is drinking expensive sugar water with less fiber than if you just ate the actual fruit. You might lose a couple pounds during the cleanse, but that's just water weight from eating almost nothing for 3 days. It comes right back. Save your money. Your liver is doing just fine without the help. Myth number 7. Cardio is the best way to lose weight. This one took over in the 80s and 90s during the aerobics era. The logic was simple. You sweat a lot during cardio, so you must be burning a ton of fat. But here's the math. An hour of running burns maybe 400 to 600 calories, depending on your pace and body weight. That sounds like a lot, until you realize one bad meal can wipe that out in 10 minutes. You cannot outrun a bad diet. It is physically impossible for most people to do enough cardio to offset the amount of extra food they eat. And here's the other problem. If all you do is cardio with no resistance training, you will lose muscle along with fat. You end up skinny fat. You weigh less on the scale, but you don't look any different with your shirt off because you lost the muscle that gives your body shape. Resistance training builds muscle, which raises your resting metabolic rate, meaning you burn more calories even when you're doing nothing. Cardio is great for your heart and your health, but for changing how your body looks, weights beat the treadmill every single time. Myth number 8. Muscle turns into fat when you stop working out. This is one of the most ridiculous myths that somehow still exists. People see retired athletes who got out of shape, and they assume the muscle literally transformed into fat. That's not how biology works. Muscle and fat are completely different types of tissue. Muscle can't turn into fat any more than bone can turn into skin. They're different things. What actually happens is simple. When you stop training, your muscles shrink because they're not being stimulated anymore. But if you're still eating the same amount of food as when you were training, you're now in a calorie surplus because you're burning less, so you gain fat. The muscle got smaller and the fat got bigger. They didn't transform into each other. They just changed in size independently. And honestly, this myth stops a lot of people from ever starting to lift because they think if they ever quit, they'll get fat. The opposite is true. Having more muscle gives you a better metabolism, which makes it easier to stay lean, even if you take time off. Myth number 9. Doing crunches burns belly fat. This is called spot reduction, and it does not work. You cannot choose where your body loses fat. When you do a crunch, you are working the abdominal muscles. You are not burning the fat that sits on top of those muscles. Those are two completely separate processes. Building muscle is done through exercise. Losing fat is done through a calorie deficit. And where your body pulls fat from is determined by your genetics, not by which exercises you do. You could do 1,000 crunches a day and build incredible ab muscles, but if there's a layer of fat on top of them, you will never see them. This is why you see people doing endless crunches and side bends and leg raises, and their stomach still looks the same. They're building the muscle underneath, but they haven't addressed the fat on top. Fix your diet. Get into a calorie deficit. The fat will come off everywhere, including your stomach. Then the abs you built with those crunches will actually be visible. Myth number 10. Supplements can replace a good diet. The supplement industry is worth over $150 billion, and it has a very strong financial incentive to make you believe that you need pills and powders for everything. You don't. If your diet includes a reasonable variety of whole foods with enough protein, fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats, you're getting almost everything your body needs. A multivitamin will not fix a diet of fast food and soda. A greens powder is not the same as eating actual vegetables. A fat burner will not burn fat if you're not in a calorie deficit. The only supplements with genuinely solid evidence behind them are creatine, protein powder if you struggle to hit your protein target through food, vitamin D if you don't get enough sun, and maybe fish oil. That's about it. Everything else is either unnecessary, unproven, or a flat-out scam. Stop spending hundreds a month on supplements and spend that money on better food instead. Myth number 11. Sweating more means a better workout. People associate sweat with effort and effort with results. So more sweat must mean more results, right? No. Sweat is a cooling mechanism. That's all it is. Your body produces sweat to regulate your temperature. It has almost nothing to do with how effective your workout is. You can get an incredible workout in a cold gym and barely break a sweat. You can also sit in a sauna doing absolutely nothing and sweat more than you ever have in your life. One of those built muscle. The other one didn't. And yet people still wear hoodies and trash bags to the gym in the middle of summer, thinking they're burning more fat. They're not. They're just dehydrating themselves, which makes the scale go down temporarily and then comes right back the second they drink water. If you're judging your workouts by how wet your shirt is, you're using the wrong metric. Myth number 12. Eggs are bad for your heart. This one came from cholesterol studies in the 1960s and 70s that found a link between dietary cholesterol and heart disease. Eggs are high in cholesterol, so they got demonized overnight. For decades, people were told to limit egg consumption, or at the very least, throw away the yolks and only eat the whites. But newer and much better research has shown that dietary cholesterol has minimal impact on blood cholesterol for most people. Your liver produces the vast majority of the cholesterol in your body, and when you eat more of it, your liver simply produces less to compensate. Eggs are one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. High-quality protein, healthy fats, choline, B vitamins, and they're cheap. Decades of people throwing away yolks and eating dry egg whites for absolutely no reason. Eat the whole egg. Your heart will be fine. So there you go, 12 health myths that have been floating around for years, sometimes decades, that are just flat out wrong. Most of them survive because they sound logical on the surface, and they get repeated so many times that people stop questioning them. But now, you know better. So stop repeating them and share this with someone who still believes breakfast is the most important meal of the day because a cereal box told them so. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Every diet on the internet claims to be the one that finally works, and most of them are just the same thing repackaged with a different name. So today, I'm ranking every popular diet from nerd tier all the way up to S tier based on 4 things: how sustainable it is, how healthy it is in terms of actual nutrients, how well it keeps you in a deficit while still keeping you full, and how much you actually enjoy your life while on it. Because what is the point of having abs if you are miserable the entire time? So let's get into it. Carnivore diet. Only animal products: meat, fish, eggs, some dairy. No plants, no carbs, nothing that grew out of the ground. I will give this diet credit where it's due. Hitting your protein on carnivore is almost too easy. You are eating steak and eggs all day, so of course your protein is high. And people drop weight on this thing very quickly. That's not just talk, that actually happens. Nutrients are solid too. B12, iron, zinc, omega-3s, all coming from real whole animal sources. So where does it fall apart? Sustainability. Try doing this for 6 months. Try doing this for a year. No fruit, no rice, no bread. Your friend's birthday comes around and you are sitting there with a plate of plain beef while everyone else is having cake. It takes all the fun out of life. And fun matters more than people want to admit when it comes to actually sticking with something long term. B tier. Short-term weapon, not a lifestyle. Potato-only diet. You eat nothing but potatoes. That's the diet. That's the whole plan. No meat, no eggs, no vegetables. Just potatoes. Morning, noon, night. I love potatoes as much as the next person, but this is just insane. You are getting basically zero protein, almost no essential fats, and you are missing so many vitamins and minerals that your body is running on fumes. If this is your current diet plan, do me a favor. Close this video, go to the kitchen, cook some chicken, maybe throw in some vegetables. Come back when you've had a real meal. Nerd tier. Intermittent fasting. You restrict your eating to a specific window during the day. Maybe you fast for 16 hours and eat for 8, maybe 20 and 4. Some people do 1 meal a day. And intermittent fasting can actually be great for focus. If you work early mornings and you don't want food making you sluggish, pushing your first meal to noon can help you be more productive. The problem is, it only works if you are still in a calorie deficit during your eating window. And most people who are always hungry just end up stuffing themselves during their eating hours and eating at maintenance or above without even realizing it. So they fast all morning feeling disciplined and then eat 2,500 calories between noon and 8 p.m. and wonder why the scale is not moving. Intermittent fasting is not a diet. It's a meal timing strategy. Sometimes it works. Really depends on the person. C tier. Overrated. GOMAD. Gallon of milk a day. A gallon. Every day. That is 2,400 calories and 123 grams of protein just from the milk. Can it work for a bulk? Technically, yes. You will put on size. That is guaranteed when you are drinking 2,400 extra calories. But you will also spend the entire day feeling like someone filled your stomach with cement. Your gut will be in a permanent state of protest, and anyone who has to be around you will notice. I tried this when I was younger, thinking I was being smart about gaining weight. I was not being smart. I was being an idiot with a milk jug. E tier. Paleo. Meat, fish, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. No processed food, no grains, no dairy, no sugar. The carb sources are good ones. Sweet potatoes, fruit, things that actually give you energy without the crash. The nutrient profile is insanely good. And unlike a lot of the diets on this list, paleo still keeps things fun. You can make great meals. You can eat things that taste amazing. And it's one of those diets where you just feel good. Your energy is stable. Your digestion is solid. Your body is happy. The only thing holding it back is that it can be tricky in public situations. Eating out, social events, traveling. The restrictions catch up with you when you are not in your own kitchen. But if your lifestyle allows you to stick with it, this is a fantastic way to eat. A tier. Juice cleanse, or detox diet, or whatever name they are calling it this month to charge you $15 for a bottle of green liquid. You drink nothing but fruit and vegetable juice for 3 to 7 days to cleanse your body of toxins. Your liver already does that. That is literally what it was designed to do. It has been doing it since the day you were born, and it does not need help from a bottle of overpriced celery water. You will lose weight on this, sure, but it's all water and muscle because you are consuming zero protein while running on sugar water with no fiber. The second you eat a real meal, the weight comes right back, and you feel terrible the whole time, but you tell yourself that's the toxins leaving. No, that's your body telling you it needs actual food. E tier. Save your money. Mediterranean diet. Olive oil, fish, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, a bit of red wine. This is what your doctor actually recommends because it has more research behind it than anything else on this list. Heart disease goes down. Cancer risk goes down. You literally live longer. The studies on this are overwhelming. Nutrients are incredible. Nothing is fully off limits, so it's sustainable, and you actually enjoy what you eat. The only reason it's not higher is that it doesn't automatically put you in a calorie deficit. You can absolutely overeat on Mediterranean food. Olive oil and nuts are extremely calorie dense, and it's easy to go overboard. Great for living a long, healthy life. Not the most precise tool for getting shredded. Top of B tier, right above carnivore. Keto, under 50 grams of carbs per day, high fat, moderate protein. Forces your body into ketosis where you burn fat for fuel instead of carbs. Some people genuinely do well on this. If you are someone who is not that into carbs, and you love fatty foods like cheese and bacon and avocado, then keto might actually feel natural for you. But for most people, cutting carbs is cutting happiness. No pasta, no rice, no bread, no fruit basically. No pizza. You go to a party and you are picking the pepperoni off the pizza and eating it with your hands. The initial weight loss looks amazing on the scale, but most of it is water. Your body stores water with carbs, and when you remove the carbs, the water goes with them. Then the second you eat a bowl of rice, it all comes back and you think you gained 5 pounds of fat overnight. You didn't. It's water. C tier. It works, but at what cost to your enjoyment of life? Low-fat diet. This one came out of the 80s and 90s when the entire world decided that fat was the enemy. So the food industry removed fat from all their products. But food with no fat tastes terrible, so they replaced it with sugar. And you had fat-free cookies, fat-free yogurt, fat-free everything, all loaded with sugar. And people were eating these things thinking they were making a healthy choice. They were not. They were eating sugar and getting fatter. Fat is essential. Your hormones need it. Your brain needs it. You need it to absorb certain vitamins. Cut it out and you become hungry, moody, and your hormones go completely sideways. And because food with no fat is so unsatisfying, you end up eating way more of it trying to feel full, which defeats the entire purpose. An entire generation got fatter following this advice. E tier. One of the worst nutrition recommendations in modern history. Vegan. No animal products. Fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, seeds. If you are doing this for sustainability or for the animals, I respect that. That is your choice. But as a diet to get in shape and build a good physique, this is one of the worst options available. The nutrient profile without supplementation is genuinely poor. B12, iron, zinc, omega-3s, vitamin D, all either missing or poorly absorbed from plant sources. And getting adequate protein is a disaster. By the time you hit your protein target through lentils and tofu and beans, you have already eaten so many calories and carbs that your deficit is either gone or barely alive. So much food for so little protein. Nerd tier. And the last one. IIFYM. If it fits your macros, you track your calories and your macronutrients, and you eat whatever you want, as long as it fits the numbers. This is the best diet for any normal person who wants to get in shape. It is extremely sustainable because nothing is off limits. You want pizza on a Friday? Fit it in. You want birthday cake? Fit it in. You want to go out to dinner with friends and not be the weird one ordering a plain salad? Fit it in. And the reason this is S tier is not just because it's flexible, it's because this is the system that every other diet on this list uses, whether they realize it or not. Every single diet that has ever resulted in fat loss did so because it created a calorie deficit. Keto does it by removing carbs. Carnivore does it by limiting food choices. Paleo does it by cutting processed food. They all just use different rules to get you to the same place. IIFYM cuts out the middleman and gives you direct control. One tip though, don't use this as an excuse to eat garbage all day just because it fits. Incorporate volume eating so you actually feel full. Eat your vegetables. Eat your fruit. Get your fiber in. Don't neglect your micronutrients. That way, you don't just look great, you also feel great. S tier, not even close. So that is every popular diet ranked. Stop jumping from diet to diet every 3 weeks, hoping the next one is the magic answer. There is no magic answer. Pick something you can stick with. Make sure you are in a deficit. Eat your protein. Be patient. That's all there is to it. People just want it to be complicated because simple feels too easy. But simple is what works. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.